Welcome to the BJJ Executive Podcast, episode 16. I'm your host, Dave Kroll. My guest today is Tom Rodriguez. Tom is a jiu-jitsu black belt, a competitor, and head coach at Street Jitsu Academy in Justin, Texas. Tom's never give up story translates well on both the mats and in life in general. Despite the fact that Tom supports the Chicago Cubs, it was a true pleasure to get to know him at a deeper level. And of course, hear how his story of determination can be used to inspire others. If you enjoy the podcast and wish to support us, please do so by liking and sharing our content on both social media and by leaving a review on whichever platform you are listening from. Additionally, the BJJ Executive Podcast is proudly partnered with The Mat Mission, a nonprofit organization charged with spreading jiu-jitsu through communities in need and providing mentorship and leadership to the youth within those communities. To get involved in the Mat Mission, to sponsor a project, please follow our Instagram page at The Mat Mission or feel free to message me directly. As always, thank you for listening and for making this part of your jiu-jitsu experience. It's an honor to be on this journey with you. Enjoy the episode. Tom, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you, sir.
So we were kind of kicking things around a little bit before we got started, and we saved a couple little topics here because they started going into an interesting little rabbit hole. But I was telling Tom that before we started recording today, knowing that I wasn't going to be able to train at noon, because it is noon right now, I wanted to get a good hot yoga session in, and so we started talking a little bit about the benefits, I suppose, of what yoga can do for you. And you brought up, what's it called?
DDP yoga.
DDP yoga. Yep. And so you guys, and so this is what? This is, what is it? Diamond
Dallas Page. So
Diamond Dallas Page.
If you're not a pro wrestling fan, Google him. He was...
I've never heard of the guy. I'm not a pro wrestling fan either.
And just be forewarned, I'm a huge pro wrestling fan, so there may be a lot of references of wrestling here.
That's totally fine, dude. I guess there is like a little segue into jiu-jitsu with it.
So DDP is a former wrestler for WCW and later in WWF. Kind of post-retirement, he developed this yoga system. Mainly it was to help like aging pro wrestlers who were... I think the most famous one was Jake the Snake Roberts.
I know Jake the Snake.
It helped him recover from, I forgot what he was on, but he was on a drug addiction and his body was just in bad shape. But he helped him recover to the point the guy stepped in a wrestling ring again.
That is crazy, man.
He also helped a lot of military vets. There's one video on YouTube about him, and I forget his name, but he was on crutches or something, some sort of like that. He wasn't able to walk very well, and then after the DDP yoga program, he was walking and just back in the best shape of his life. He never thought he'd walk again, and just through this yoga program he created, he was back in 100% again.
So like this was kind of is this like a franchise? I mean, is this something that people start DDP schools
I haven't kept up with it lately, but he did start a school. I don't remember what it was. I don't know if he franchised it out, but there's like, he mostly publishes like videos online that you can follow through at home. So I was doing some of that.
Okay. That might be where I've heard of it from then. Is like some people doing like, cause like the minute you said that, it triggered it. I was like, cause I kind of forgot to go research it or something like that, you know? My wife and I, we kind of entered into this phase of like, just went all in on yoga. You know, I was like, dude, I like sort of the theme was in my mind was quote unquote, how good can it get? How good can it get? So every time I'm doing yoga, it's transferred into jiu-jitsu as well. But I just think in my mind, like, how good can I make this look? Like how much can I improve? And the amount of like, I don't know, openness in my hips and my spine and my neck. I mean, things that were just like debilitating.
Yep.
Honestly, like it was life altering. It was, there were like major limitations on quality of life, especially being active.
Sure.
And yoga opened that up. And then when I heard about this guy that you're talking about, who was like basically crippled, you know, and there's like multiple stories of this. So I have to check this out because I'm kind of curious, like, is it traditional yoga flow or is there something different that he does?
I'm not a pro at yoga. I don't really know too much about it. Just from the videos that I've done and I've seen, he kind of blends it with some of the stuff he's done in the past as far as wrestling. Like his call is like the diamond cutter. So you can't see it over the radio, but he does this sign. So one of the stretches is like sign. Here.
Yeah.
Do the diamond.
Okay.
But he's also just a very nice and inviting person, very motivational.
That's so surprising as a pro wrestler.
Right?
Dude.
One of his
was that his persona when
one
he
of
was...
one of his personas later in his career was kind of like a motivational speaker.
Okay, that's
so
cool, man.
then that just kind of blended into his yoga program, where he's just very motivational, and
Amazing.
at least the videos that I've kind of seen from other people, you know, they're very motivational, but this guy kind of takes it up a little bit.
Yeah, I like. There are so many. I've talked to Formiga about adding some yoga classes to our schedule, and it's definitely something he's interested in. And I am almost sure that I'm going to go down the instructor path because I just have enjoyed it so much. But like, first of all, there's a lot of like yoga for jiu-jitsu stuff that's out there. There's a guy that has, there's probably multiple people that are out there, but like there's some really popular guys that do, have a bunch of YouTube videos, apps and stuff like that you can get and do yoga for jiu-jitsu. But like, I found that a lot of times people kind of, I wouldn't say water it down, but they sort of pre-assume that you're going to like, you're a jiu-jitsu guy, so like you wouldn't be into anything other than just the mobility and the stretching, and so that's all we're going to focus on. But a lot of the meditation and a lot of the like central nervous system resets and stuff like that you'll do, especially at the end. Like, so for example, when we finish our practice, we'll go in a shavasana type of a pose, which is like a corpse type of a pose, and no different than like some of the boot camp systems that you'll see where they incorporate music into it and whatnot. Things will change into more of a sort of a meditative type of a sound in the room and whatnot, and allow you to sort of totally reset after just wrecking your body through these hot yoga movements and whatnot. It's freaking amazing. And like, if we did that after sparring, oh my God, like I wonder how much more recovery you would get, you know, as opposed to like, dude, I got to go, I got a dinner, I got to get out of here. Like you just literally came out of a Shark Tank and you know, so anyway, I'm a big proponent of it. And it sounds like this guy is kind of like, I don't know, maybe beat me to the market a little bit in terms of, does he do like any of the meditative stuff, or is it typically just like, you know, like the mobility?
It's from what I've seen, it's mostly the mobility and the stretching of it.
What most people
seen
want.
too much of the meditative.
That's what most people want. And there's definitely like, you could get into a lot of like the yin yoga, which is definitely the slower forms of these types of things. So it's interesting. I'm definitely going to check that out. The other thing that we were talking about, and this is something that I'm really excited to, I've kind of announced it already, but we've alluded to it a little bit, but we are now officially partnered with the Mat Mission, which is a nonprofit organization that was founded by visionary and jiu-jitsu entrepreneur Sam Snow. Sam has now put together a board of directors for the nonprofit. It's myself, it's his wife, Jessica. It is a guy named Corey Baker, who is sort of sponsored the flagship project that the Mat Mission has sponsored. And then it's myself. And the objective is really simple. The objective is basically to go out and spread through communities the value that we always talk about in these podcasts about jiu-jitsu. I mean, like for, I don't know how many different episodes we've brought people on and they've talked about like what jiu-jitsu has done to them, the outlet that jiu-jitsu has provided, the path in from the darkness that jiu-jitsu has given them from dark spots in their life. I've shared that on my own story. It's come up over and over and over again. And there are communities where jiu-jitsu is just simply not available. And so the flagship program right now is spearheaded by one of the fellow board members on the Mat Mission, Corey Baker, who has started an existing organization called Braid 7. And it is basically an incubator type of a program at, I think it's called the Hanley Hope Center in East Fort Worth. And Corey is the type of guy, he's an operator by trade, I suppose you would say, in terms of business terms, and has basically gone out there and just been tip of the spear on getting mats donated, on getting gis, on getting space renovated and prepared for jiu-jitsu, and then has acted as an instructor for this. And so the mission right now, and what I want to be part of, is bottling that up, putting SOPs together, putting the curriculum together, and getting it to the point where we can now make it portable and actually scale this. The idea here would be for people that don't have access to jiu-jitsu, people who need role models in their life, people who need something productive to do, people who need to see that there's an outlet that jiu-jitsu can provide, that there's a path to success outside of just causing trouble during the day or having nothing to do during the day or hating school or whatever the case may be. More and more of that. And so as we go through that and as that gets a little bit more traction, that's something that you're going to hear more and more of. But I've had countless people reach out, and I'm very thankful for this as well, by the way, but I've had countless people reach out and said, like, what is the objective that you've got with the podcast? How can we support you? And the objective has always been really simple, and that is to just continue to spread the stories of other people who have found the benefits that I found, and share those benefits with you to keep you on the mats a couple days longer. That inevitably is helpful to a lot of different people. And so a lot of folks have come back and said, how can I reciprocate? What can I do for you? And the answer now is straight up simple. You can help me support the podcast through the Mat Mission. And more to come on that, but like, I'm really excited because we finally found something that we could sink our teeth into. I have a lot of respect for Sam. He's somebody that I met from the podcast. I always sort of saw him as sort of like a visionary, and he's definitely a jiu-jitsu entrepreneur. This came from his brain housing group, and now he has built a team around him to help grow it. And I'm just honored and excited to be a part of it. And so, Tom, you were talking about, what was it called? Boxing
Out Negativity.
Boxing Out Negativity. And this is a similar program up in Chicago.
It is a similar program in Chicago. This started way longer after I left. But we were talking earlier about controlling your social media algorithm. Yeah. I was looking for positive things. And like, oh, hey, there's this positive thing in Chicago. Just Boxing Out Negativity. They're taking in kids, giving them an outlet, place to go after school, so they're not on the streets at night. And they're all in there learning how to box. They've got lots of good role models there. And it's like, that's exactly what they need.
That's amazing, man.
That's exactly what they need. And then when you're talking about the Mat Mission, it's like, yes, this does good things for these types of neighborhoods. Yeah. That's great.
And it doesn't have to be, it's not, specific to jiu-jitsu. Sure. It's not specific to boxing. I mean, anything that people can do to sort of latch on, but we've got these gifts, and we spend all this time building these skills up, and not to mention the fact that like just being an instructor and being a leader and whatnot is also helpful for your development as a human, you know? But if you've been blessed enough to have some success in your life and to aggregate some of these skills, man, there are definitely kids that are out there that could use it. And they see somebody like yourself who's a black belt and successful in business and in the world and just sort of winning, and they're like, man, what I thought was the only possibility and what I see around me, like, this guy's doing this, maybe I could do it too, maybe I could latch on and sort of get out of this little echo chamber that I'm in and move on with life. So it's cool. I'm not surprised to hear that boxing would be a good outlet for it as well. Especially with testosterone ridden, youth and puberty and whatnot. Like, boom. Okay, boxing. Like, are you going to get them into basket weaving? Probably not. No. Even though I said that might be a possibility. Boxing, jiu-jitsu, it just sounds cool. So it's probably a lot easier to get that yes. We
didn't have a lot of that stuff when I was growing up. I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood
in Chicago.
Yep, I was held up by gunpoint by the time I was 5.
Really?
We were going to church. Me and my mom. We were going to church and we came around this corner, like right across the street from church. Guy just came running out, had a gun up, and I was like, oh, holy crap.
Dang, dude, at 5?
And then luckily the police were not too far away from us. I guess they were chasing them down the alley. So
oh my gosh.
I was like, okay, yeah, that's the type of neighborhood I grew up in. But we didn't have a lot of that. We grew up low income, just struggling, trying to make ends meet, and couldn't afford jiu-jitsu, karate, any of that stuff. So stuff like this is very beneficial for those types of neighborhoods, for those types of kids. It helps out quite a bit. Yeah.
So like watching your mom get held up at 5, I mean, like, what kind of an impact does that have on a kid that, I don't know how you get back on the horse. I mean, that's a pretty meaningful event.
When I think
I remember things that happened when I was 5. I mean, you're old enough to have at least formed some sort of memory of that.
It was definitely scary, but to me, there's just normal everyday life.
Yeah. In Chicago.
We were just used to violence and just police everywhere, gangs, drugs. We were just that was life.
Yeah.
It was to be expected.
Yeah.
It still sucks, but that's just what happens when you're out.
Yeah. Has Chicago gotten better or worse since you were a kid? Because all you hear on the news or whatnot are like bona fide, like horrifying instances of like, man, is this America? Like what the heck is going on?
It's definitely gotten worse, but it's controlled in certain parts of the area. So if you go to like certain part, if say you go to the north side of Chicago, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah,
you're gonna be fine.
Is that more like suburbia?
Yeah,
or is
I would
like
consider
more
that more
area?
Yeah, I would consider that more like the Flower Mound area.
Okay,
sure.
Cool.
I
like Flower Mound.
Stuff happens once in a while, but
Yeah.
not to the point where like you're in the south side of Chicago, where I'm from, or the east side or the west side. It's contained to certain areas.
Yeah.
But it's definitely gotten worse. At some point, they broke up a lot of the gangs that were there. There were like 3 or 4 major gangs. They basically did a whole, for lack of better words, they did like a dragnet. That's the only thing that comes to my head right now. But they caught a lot of these major leaders of the gangs. But what happened is the gangs didn't go away. All these 4 section of gangs turned into 8 gangs, turned into 12 gangs, and they just kept multiplying because there was a lot of infighting.
Yeah.
So now all this violence and infighting is all these little sections of gangs fighting each other for control. So like gang A can hold this street, but next street over is gang B, street over is gang C. And they all want gang B's territory.
Yeah.
So they're just constantly fighting over
That's
it.
crazy. And I mean, is this like, when you say territory, I mean, is this like for drugs and stuff or
drugs or just
whatever?
Cred. Yeah. It's like, this is my area.
Yeah.
You're not taking it.
We have 2 square blocks.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
We have more chain link fences than you do.
Yeah. I would say there's a little more honor amongst thieves back when I was younger in those main gangs, just because I was around a lot of them.
Yeah.
And, they weren't just going out shooting random people. If they were shooting you, it was for a reason.
Yeah.
Now it's just like, just shots everywhere till they get to the right person.
Yeah,
and
man,
that's why you're seeing kids
crazy.
and adults, all these other people getting caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, some of the statistics that I've seen on Chicago, like it's hard to know how much of this is sample bias, like where you watch something and it's just like an easy media target. You know, I mean, I grew up in St. Louis, and I grew up in the suburbs of St. Louis. We had lived in a really nice neighborhood. Went to a good school. I mean, like I had a fantastic childhood, but there are elements of St. Louis which are also horrible. And like we're in Dallas Fort Worth. Dallas Fort Worth is like sprawl, dude. I mean, like if you want to escape something, you pretty much can, because it's just one of those weird parts of the country where it keeps going. In a metropolitan area that's contained like St. Louis, you're connected to all of this stuff, and so there are definitely like no-go zones in the city and trash can tolls and stuff like that, which are just like, seemed like a normal way of life when I grew up, and I knew if we were going to go to one certain area, like, all right, dude, this is, it's different, so I wish that there was a way for those types of areas to escape that. And it's kind of crazy if you bring somebody in who has a different perspective on like the United States, for example, where maybe it's been painted as like the land of just pure opportunity and affluence and whatnot, like from another country. And then you come here and you go insert yourself into an area like Chicago. Like, dude, you could like, that is just as bad as some of the stuff that you hear people warning you about. Like if you are going to go spend the day in Brazil, people are like, dude, you can't go here. You can't go here. You can't go here. You need a driver here. I wouldn't wear my watch there. I definitely wouldn't get my phone out there. 100% the exact same things that I would tell somebody like going through areas that like where my brother works in St. Louis, so
I tell anybody that's going to Chicago, never go south of Chinatown.
Really? Where's that related in relation to, what's it called, Miracle Mile or Mile?
Magic
Mile? Or?
Magic Mile. So Chinatown's about, forgetting my map, a little bit south.
Is it?
Probably
Okay.
10 miles south. Like you're finding a Magical Mile.
Are you?
Mile,
Dude, I don't know if I agree with that. I had an experience one night by Navy Pier. Is that like in that area? There's a conference that takes place like in my old industry every year down there, and it's at Navy Pier, and it's a big dinner and a bunch of guys in suits and stuff like that. I mean, just talking about the same stupid stuff that we've talked about forever. And there was a dinner, and like, dude, I'm not up for, I'm a walker, man. I like, if I can walk, I try to and whatnot. It was like a mile and a half away or something. So I walked to the dinner at 5, nice, evening. had, good time. I don't know, coming home, maybe it's 9. And dude, I was like, whoa.
Once it's dark,
whoa.
it changes. The game changes when the sun
Dude,
goes
I
down.
felt suddenly quite exposed. I'm in a suit. Oh man, talk about like, don't get your phone out. Like,
right?
Dude, I don't need to. I look like a target, man. So I'm like, just get me out of here. Get me to my hotel. Get me back to a main street that has like some elements of safety around. I'm walking. I'm looking for like weapons of opportunity everywhere.
Yep.
I'm like, ooh, there's a rock. So like that'll get me to the next corner.
Don't pull guard on the streets of Chicago.
No, dude, I don't
9.
think we'll don't pull guard on the streets anyway. But like, yeah, definitely not what you not the place that you want to be. So what how'd you make it out of all that, man? I mean, did you go to school? Did you go to college? I mean, what was sort of the next step for you to get out of what could have otherwise been kind of a
long way out of there.
I mean, knowing you now, I mean, obviously, like I've said this before with jiu-jitsu. I mean, we insert ourselves into each other's lives at different phases.
Yeah.
Like you and I are both family guys now. We both live in nice areas. We both do jiu-jitsu together, and it's Saturday. I see you in an open mat. We slap hands and freaking roll. It's like nothing. But like you never know where people came from and what the journey was. On the way up. So I'm interested to hear.
Yeah. So it was a long way out of there. So I was, south side of Chicago for quite some time, up until I want to say high school ish. My parents were able to move out into the south suburbs. So I went to high school out there.
Nice.
Fell on some hard times. My dad lost his job. I remember there being an economic downturn around that same time. So freshman year, I wouldn't say we were homeless, but we were couch surfing from place to place to place for quite some time.
Really?
So I was still going to high school at that same place up until probably early sophomore year. They found out I didn't live there anymore, so they kicked me out.
Really?
They're like, nope, you got to go.
Dang.
I was not a troublemaker. I wasn't the smartest kid, but I was still, showing up, doing grades, doing good grades, decent grades. I was actually
it's better than me.
We were staying with a family about an hour out, and I was still make it on time in school. And I was like, I'm showing my dedication. Why do I gotta go? And this guy who's a nut job still gets to stay here.
Wow.
So I was like, whatever. So since my dad we fell on hard times, we ended up back down, in the hood, back in Chicago. So we stood there for a while. I tried to go to this alternative school. It didn't work out. Things were going to go bad if I stood there. So I don't really know the full story. I don't think my mom ever told me, but for some reason, the person who would take me to school never showed up again. So I was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
So it took about, it was maybe like 6 months to a year off of school.
Were you like a junior or senior at this point?
I was still, I think I was a sophomore, junior time-ish.
Okay.
So I was just trying to look for work, trying to help out around the house.
Definitely remember that time in my life. It's hard for me to imagine like even having the option,
Sure.
but certainly of having the necessity to just take some time off,
Yep. So yeah, I didn't really do too much. I just stood at home, played video games, went outside, and they were trying to get me into a good school, but I wasn't, I don't want to say smart enough, but I didn't have the best grades to get into those types of schools. My only options were the really bad schools, the alternative schools. The one that I could get into had like a 30% graduation rate. So
Is that
I was
right?
like, yeah, I'm not gonna waste my time.
Yeah.
And then I think it turned 16, 17, 18. I'm a little foggy there, but I got my GED.
Okay, cool.
So I got my GED, ended up at community college, met a lot of great people there, and they're like, yeah, you should stick around and try to do something. And I ended up sticking there. Went to community college. We ended up moving back to the suburbs. And then I started working in computer animation. I was like, okay, I'll try this out.
How do you get into computer animation, man?
I was just
somebody who just didn't.
I was trying to get my certificate in it. So I liked that for a bit. Then towards the end, I was kind of falling out of interest for it. I just had one bad teacher, and I was like, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah. It's amazing how those experiences. So like I don't know how it was in Chicago, right? And but I do kind of know how it is here in DFW. And in DFW, we have all of these like ISDs, independent school districts, right? And the consequence of that is that you could fall into a bubble really quickly and not really realize what's going on around you, and not appreciate it too.
Sure.
You know, like, so somebody who comes to live in Flower Mound, for example, where I live, we have a really good school district. People are generally making enough money to make ends meet, and you know, everybody's got their own challenges and problems in life and whatnot. Like, there's no just cookie cutter to it. But typically, if that's the only thing that you're exposed to, and you spend 4 years in that type of an environment, then you kind of tend to think that that's what everybody has. When I grew up, as I mentioned, like, we lived in a suburb of St. Louis, but they had a busing program. And what they would do is they would bus kids in from the inner cities, and for you know, whatever reason. And it was crazy because, like, looking back at it now, I remember, like, it was just this like, I don't want to call it like fake, but almost like a synthetic environment. Like, they really wanted things to be just sort of like integrated that way, which makes total sense. Like, I understand that, right? But at the time, like, what it's done is, like, I look back and I realize, like, the challenges that those types of kids, forget about the home setting and like what they have to go back to every day and whatnot, but just like their days were like so much more difficult than mine. Like, I remember them having to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning just so that they could make the bus. That's 2 hours earlier than I did, you know? And then every once in a while there'd be an announcement that would come on that, like, the buses from the city weren't going to be on time today because there was an accident on the highway coming in. And like, I remember just being like kind of clueless, like, okay, whatever, you know, like, I guess that sucks, you know, they're stuck on the highway and aren't going to be able to get this first hour of class, you know? It's crazy. Like, it's just, the program still happens today, and like is somewhat controversial. Like, there's varying degrees of success with it, but like, I kind of wish that was something that everybody could experience, you know, because it just exposes you to the challenges that people have to come up with through no fault of their own. I mean, these kids just happen to live in a really bad area, you know, and don't have all of the economic advantages that, you know, that I had. Right. And, but like, looking back at it now, man, I'm like, dude, to be able to kind of like pull yourself out of that and make something good out of, you know, what you've got on your plate. I mean, like, the amount of challenge that must take, you know, is going to produce somebody that is capable of so many other things than somebody who just sits in a freaking Narnia-like environment, you know what I mean, without those types of challenges. Because like, the first 18 years of your life, they're just the first 18 years of your life. You know, if you can make it through that and come out, the amount of demonstrated resilience that you've got, dude, I mean, like, I've just got so much respect for that, you know. And I would take somebody from that type of an environment that has pulled themselves through and just shows the hustle and the grind on a team that I'm on, before I took somebody that's like, hey, I got really good grades, and, you know, I had all of these clubs, you know what I mean? And I was the president, of my freaking whatever class or sorority or fraternity or whatever, you know? So that's pretty cool, man. I didn't know that about you. Again, I see you now, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, Tom's a normal dude, but, so at what point what brought you out of Chicago, I guess? Like, I mean, kind of moving on past the...
So, my wife had a connection down here. She has family in Louisville.
Is your wife from Chicago?
She's from the suburbs. She's from the suburbs.
Okay.
Suburbs of Chicago.
Cool.
So she has family down here, and she always went down here over the summer, and like every year it's like, hey, we need to move to Texas. And I was like, no, I'm good. I like my pizza. I like my, you know, Chicago dogs. I like my Chicago Cubs. I don't want to leave.
Oh, dude, we got to talk about that. we're gonna have a moment of a problem.
We'll roll.
Good thing you're a black belt.
We'll roll afterwards.
Well, I already know. We're not going to represent my cards good enough for that one. We'll have to come up with something else.
So yeah, I was working with my company at the time, and then just this opportunity just opened up in Roanoke, and it was just like, they're gonna move me down here, they're gonna pay me well. It was just like, it lined up out of nowhere. I was like, all right, I'll try it. And I was like, I got the job. We moved down here, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
And then that's it. So your wife has family in Louisville, you said?
Yes.
You guys ended up in Roanoke. I mean, it's fairly close.
It's fairly,
yeah. It's basically, you know, like, north side to south side of Chicago.
Yep.
I mean, it's essentially that's cool. Well, it's good for her anyway. And I guess I'm kind of like you. I would have never thought about moving down to this like monstrosity.
Right.
It's too freaking hot. The sports teams aren't as good, or at least to me, they're not. So anyway, at what point did you? Did you grow up in wrestling, or I mean, like somehow you found your way into jiu-jitsu at some point? So.
Yeah, we didn't. Like I said, in Chicago, I didn't have much.
Yeah.
I didn't really do any athletics. I was originally exposed to jiu-jitsu from pro wrestling. Who was it? Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, man.
He was a wrestler in WWE, and
was Ken Shamrock in WWE?
Yep.
Was he really? Dude, I didn't know that. I mean, I remember him from like UFC 1.
He still wrestles here and there too.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Dallas native.
And what drew me to him is he always used submissions to win. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And then I was always elevated to all these.
Yeah,
he was doing ankle locks and chokes. So like, this is awesome.
He had wrestling shoes on,
and then I would just gravitate to all these other wrestlers doing submission holds. I was like, this is cool. They can do it on big guys, little guys, whatever. Get a hold of that leg and you're done.
Yeah.
It was really cool. So I got a whiff of jiu-jitsu through that. Yeah. And then I started getting into UFC through Brock Lesnar, who was also a WWE guy. And I saw him on the UFC. I was like, oh, that's cool. He's on there. And then the match I watched, he got knee barred by Frank Mir. I was like, that was even cooler.
Yeah,
I want to learn this stuff.
Well, dude, when Brock Lesnar was making his run, man, I mean, he was like, it was funny because like at that time, the UFC had gained full scale commercial steam.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was no longer this limp along, kind of organization with varying degrees of like congressional opposition and whatnot. You know, like some of the early like sort of startup phase, right? They added rules, which was also really controversial, especially to traditional jiu-jitsu guys and the Gracie family and whatnot. But now people could like get into it and had money behind it. And so what I miss about that is that everybody just kept leveling each other up. And then when Brock Lesnar came in, I remember I'm like, dude, there's no way anybody is knocking this guy off a pedestal. Because he was like an All-American, like 3-time Division I national champion, Minnesota. They filmed all these videos of him like up in his barn. I mean, it was like in the winter, and he was just like outspoken too, So like I remember that when Frank Mir got him, it was like, dude, what is that? How did that happen? How is that possible?
Right.
Like how did somebody knock this literally larger than life guy off? And he came from the WWE. That's right. So like, this guy's done it all now. He's brought that over, and then they had all these highlight reels of back when he was, single legging people and stuff. So anyway, that's cool, man. That's very similar. That's kind of how that was some of the early stuff for me too.
But yeah, he got. I started watching it because of him, and then I just started seeing people throwing submissions left and right. I was like, oh man, this is cool. I want to start getting into this. By that time, I think we were out of college. We got an apartment in Lisle, Illinois. And my wife got me a Groupon to some random boxing gym. They were doing jiu-jitsu classes with a guy named Sensei Terry. That just always stuck with me. He was like, Sensei Terry.
That's awesome, dude. Probably has nothing to do with Japanese stuff. But people call it Sensei and stuff.
So it was this like grimy boxing garage, and they put some mats in the back. And we're just doing no-gi for, I think I was there for like 2 or 3 months till I got hurt.
Okay.
And the weirdest story is the guy had me in side control, then I just felt something weird in my ribs. Went to the doctor, and they're like, oh yeah, it's just gas. And I was like, I've never had gas that bad. This is not gas. Like I couldn't drive because I couldn't turn.
It never goes away.
So it took me out for about a good month or two, and then I stopped training just because work got crazy and got busy.
Was it rib cartilage? I mean,
I never found out. They did an X-ray, and they're like, "Here, you see it? It's gas." And I was like, "It's not gas, dude. What the hell?"
Dude. Plus, gas goes away. I mean, gas like comes and goes through your body.
Right?
Yeah, dude.
I didn't know what the heck that was, but yeah, it went away like after a good month or two. Just ibuprofen and just whatever.
This is the early days, man. I mean, now it seems like every place has, jiu-jitsu's attracted this pool of professionals, including people that like know what this stuff actually is, you know. So it's almost now the early diagnoses in the gym, that's clearly a meniscus tear, or like that's a grade 3 sprain in your shoulder. Everybody knows, So, but yeah, it sounds like it was like some rib cartilage or something.
Yep,
it's crazy.
Where was that? Sorry, lost track.
You keep going. You had Sensei Terry mentoring you in the back of some grimy
Sensei
gym
Terry,
after he ripped through your rib cartilage and
he was a really nice guy. I actually saw him the last Chicago Open I did. I was like, that's Sensei Terry. I remember that guy,
dude. So it sounds like he's stuck with the jiu-jitsu scene in Chicago pretty
showed
well.
me how to do my first triangle. I was like, oh, this is awesome. But yeah, I got busy with work, so I stopped doing it. And then 2012, my mom passed away Super Bowl weekend.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So I was in a bad place for a while, and then I just kind of had I was playing a UFC video game, and I just kind of had like that one of those bright light epiphany moments. I was like, crap, I should just go do this.
Yeah.
So there was a Carlson Gracie gym down the street from me at the time. I was living in Aurora, Illinois.
Where's Aurora in relation
it's about
to Chicago?
An hour and a half west of it.
West of it. So this is like heartland, basically.
Yep.
I imagine cornfields and stuff like that.
No, it's actually pretty populated. It's like really? The second, I think it was the third or second biggest city in Illinois.
Nice. I put my blinders on. If anything relates to Chicago, it's my St. Louis background.
So if you've ever watched Wayne's World, it's based off Aurora.
There's actually
some scenes from there too.
Is there really? That's crazy, man. Game on. Car. Yeah. So UFC video game. That's the. Were you in shape? I mean,
no, I was like 180 pounds.
And what are you now? 150.
150-ish.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So I was dealing with what is it? Not heart disease.
Blood pressure,
hypertension, all that type of stuff. Like I was just I was unhealthy in every which way.
Yeah. How old are you at this time?
24.
So you're out of college. Yeah, man, it's crazy. I remember like when I was that age as well, like you suddenly aren't what you used to be, where you can just, kind of like laugh it all off, It's like, dude, I'm actually going to have to do something to keep this up,
I was working so much. I would just, go Dunkin' Donuts in the morning and then get McDonald's in the evening. Like I would just work and eat crap food all day. And then, after my mom passed away, I was just like, I really started thinking about my health again.
Really?
They had this medical team come into our work just to do kind of like our annual screenings. They're like, hey, you're pre-hypertension. You may want to go to get that checked out.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried, it was like a 24-hour fitness type of thing. I get bored really easily, especially when I'm not moving around a lot.
Yeah.
I got a squirrel brain, so just like I will lose just attention really quickly on certain things.
Oh, I'm sure doing like 3 sets of 10 or something like that, and then going and doing another exercise the same way probably is not enough to keep you entertained then.
That lasted maybe a month, and then I saw this ad for Carlson Gracie team, and I was like, I'm going to go try it. So I got into that gym. I did boxing, Muay Thai, and jiu-jitsu quite a bit. My Saturdays were pretty much boxing in the morning, jiu-jitsu right after, and then cardio right after. And then I just started catching on. And then I just really focused on jiu-jitsu though, because I kept seeing a couple of smaller guys.
That's a big jiu-jitsu school too.
Beat up the bigger guys. And I was like, holy crap, I want to get that good one day.
Yeah.
And at that point, I didn't know no thoughts about competing or anything. I was just in there for fun, trying to get healthy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big jiu-jitsu school. Like, that's not, Sensei Terry teaching as a hobby. I mean, I'm sure Sensei Terry's really good, but I mean, that's a big name. I mean, they're typically known to be, I wouldn't say aggressive, but I mean, strong competitors, like a really good friend of mine from California is a part of the Carlson Gracie team out there, and the dude just gives me fits, man, and I'm like, damn, every time I see him, I'm like, okay, these guys are legit. I mean, half of it seems like you fell under lucky stars, having something like that to be exposed to when you need that in your life to kind of get back on the horse. But at the same time, that's not a very gentle honor.
No.
You know what I mean?
In my first class, I got beat up by these 2 big dudes, and I was like, that part of my brain was like, okay, this is done. And then my other side of the brain was like, no, I want to beat those guys one day.
Yeah.
That did not, I was just like, I'm coming back. I'm going to keep trying. But yeah, I was working with Professor Jeff Neal and Brian Bishop, and they were great. They walked me through a lot. And then maybe about a year or two later, I did my first competition. And the cool thing about that as a white belt.
Okay.
I did a no-gi competition, Naga. It was in like
Dude, I definitely remember. And Naga still goes on,
Yeah.
but I mean, they're not the one anymore. But
Yep.
I definitely remember doing the Nagas back in the day. 07, 08, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm the world champion white belt of Boca Raton. You know what I mean? ...
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I was just in some random high
sword.
School. Right? I still want a sword. I'll trade my belt in any day for a sword.
Well, let me go grab one out of the closet. We have a bunch from the kids when they were little, you know, because that's what we did. We did the Nagas on the weekend, you know. That's cool.
Yeah, I was so I was 180 pounds, and then for that tournament, I was like, okay, I'm going to drop 10 pounds for this tournament. And I did my first time I ever ran a mile without stopping.
Really?
I was like, I'm going to run a mile. And I'm going to not stop. And I did the whole mile.
Wow.
And I got to the 170 division. And I was like, holy crap, that was cool. I didn't know I can do that. So I had my first match, and it was a typical white belt match, just not knowing what to do, scrambling. Yeah.
Except you guys are relatively like middleweight,
right?
At 170. Right. I mean, it's not like two Neanderthals going, you know, clubbing each other to death, you know. But that's a lot of body weight going on out there.
It is. And then and I lost on points, and then it was just it was almost a euphoric experience. I was like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, that was cool. I went home, didn't even think about signing up for another tournament. And then I had a little bug in the back of my neck. I was like, I got to try that again. I want that feeling again.
Yeah. Of competing specifically?
Yep,
yeah.
Competing.
Yeah. So doing something that you didn't know you could do. Yeah.
I never knew I could do that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't die. I didn't get hurt. You know, It wasn't humiliating. I was like, oh, that was fun. I lost 10 pounds doing it. And I was like, okay.
Built a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's some of my favorite stuff right there. Like, we've got a couple guys that have joined recently that are both about your size, you know, and one of them's young, one of them's old, and or older anyway. And I'm like, dude, I just want those guys to make it to the other side of it, you know, like, and so like, you know, we do a really good job of trying to protect them, but at the same time push, you know, like you got to be able at some point to go with the bigger guys. So like, it would be no problem for me to roll with them, for example, you know. But I might not put him with the guy that just got his blue belt that's 250,
sure,
you know, right, or whatnot. But like, I've heard that story that you've told in a lot of different versions, where it's just like I never thought I was going to be able to do something like this. I didn't think that would be something that I could kind of get myself into. And oh, by the way, I'm starting to feel a little bit better, you know, and I lost 10 pounds, and, you know, I had a compliment on my abs the other day, whatever, you know what I mean?
I got to buy all new clothes now.
Yeah. Like, so if for people that have come up in sports, you know, you're used to a lot of this stuff, like you already understand either like subconsciously or intuitively the benefits of sort of like working out, you know, like I was in the military, we worked out all the time and we ran everywhere, you know, so it was just like when I got out, like those are habits that I already had, you know, and whether I knew it or not, like if I didn't work out during the week, I'm like, God, I feel like crap. I know exactly what I need to do. Okay, cool. You know, but if you don't have that growing up, you know, like jiu-jitsu is one of those that you gotta get people in and just say, just trust me. Just please hang on.
Give it some time.
Please hang on. Like, just make it a month.
Wait till you get your first submission, then you'll be hooked.
Right,
and that's what I tell. Anytime we get someone new in, I'm just like, just wait till you get your first legit submission, and then you'll be hooked.
Yeah. Did you guys? I mean, what were your first training partners like? Were you the smallest guy, or did you?
I've always been the smallest guy, no matter where I've gone, unless I'm rolling with the kids. And
I guess if you're 150 pounds, you kind of have to like sort of just accept that a little bit, you know. Yeah. But that explains why your technique is like it is right now, right? I mean, like you've sort of had to. I'm
used to fighting off my back just because they're so big and just moving my way around them.
Yeah, exactly. Like knowing that like the technique is either working or it's not, because like they're physically unmovable otherwise. You know, whereas like bigger guys like myself, I mean, it's easier to cheat your way through it, especially early on. Yeah. I try to stay super cognizant about that. And like, I'll tell bigger guys the same thing, like, man, you know, like, don't be afraid to like, we tell the kids this, right? Like if you're going with somebody, you have 3 minutes. If you've already submitted them, like let them start and mount. No way. Like, but that's how you're going to get better, you know? And you just dominated them. And but you don't know if that could have, 9 and they're 7. You know what I mean? So like there's a lot that happens in that 2-year window.
I like to do positionals with the guys and even with the kids too. It's like you're going to start an arm bar and you're going to fight from here.
Yeah.
Just so they can get used to it. Even, some of our better kids or some of our better adults, I was like, you're going to start in this bad position. I want you to start fighting out. And we've got people that are going to compete in World League in July, and it's going to be the same process. We got a couple of guys who are going to be their first time competing, and they're used to being on top. It's like, you're going to be on bottom for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
Yeah. 100%, because like, I mean, if you don't force those types of things, we're blessed with good training partners, but you're also sort of like, I wouldn't say a victim, but you're also a product of the people that you've got around you. So if all you've got are guys that you're used to being able to dominate, I mean, be thankful that you've got them, right? Yep. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, you need to be able to be exposed to different things.
That's the same thing when I roll with like white belts, blue belts, anybody, there's a big skill discrepancy. I'll let them just beat me up for like a minute or two. So I'm tired and I'm in a bad spot and I just fight from there.
Yeah. That's awesome. I that's this weekend. That was my objective at Open Mat. I was coming off some antibiotics and then also hadn't trained in a while. And I wanted to let me just go deep into the water here. And I'm not going to try to be active. For some of the guys, I wouldn't have been able to anyway, right? But there was definitely some that I had a skill advantage on. And it was just pass. Just go ahead. I don't want to be here as long as I can. You know what I mean? If this round ends, cool. Somebody else start north-south, get whatever grips you want. Just smash my face in. I mean, just whatever. So you can kind of just get used to that, that depth of the pain cave, I guess, right? It's so crazy. When I don't know if you were talking about the kids or your adult competitors, but like, do the kids respond to that stuff, or do they pitch a fit?
They do.
Yeah, do they?
Yeah, I think
take that.
Sometimes they get
that away and maybe give that a shot.
They get too comfortable being the top dogs in the gym, and
good,
it's like, okay, now you're starting on the bottom.
It feels good until you go to a tournament.
Yeah,
and somebody else is your same size, weight, age, belt, everything else, and then all of a sudden, like, you have a rude awakening. Like, figure it out here or figure it out there. But you want to figure it out. Statistically speaking, you're not going to be that.
You want to figure
forever.
It out now, not in the tournament when you're down, 2 points or whatever it is. So,
I mean, you've got a lot more experience than I do competing. But like, I had a unique experience. Well, not unique, but I had another one of those just like moments of gratitude at the Houston Open. And I did good in the open class. Did really good. Lost in the finals to a guy that was better than me and better normally, and then better that day. No shame. I had a good time. But in my division, dude, I didn't do good at all. And I prepared. I was on weight. I was like, some of the downsides I was talking about that one match, right? Like, I had recovered from that. And this dude just blew through me, like a lot of the normal stuff that I would do. And I won't say what it is, because like, hopefully it changes at some point. I don't want to be typecast into this role, but like, things that I would normally do, he just like, man, he was like, whatever, this is nothing to me. Ran through my guard. And I like, for the first 2 or 3 minutes, I found myself just like constantly recovering. And finally towards the end, I was like completely gassed out. And I was talking to Formiga about it later, and I was kind of bummed out. I was like, damn, man, like, how's that possible? Like, never happens, And there was explanations and whatnot. We went back over it in class, but I remember like this moment of just being really happy and thankful for that,
Sure.
Because like, it's an open, right? It's Houston. It was a freaking Saturday, like whatever, but I learned so much and had the opportunity to kind of like see again firsthand, like, dude, there's always somebody that's got an answer for you. If you're not out there like freaking rounding those corners off and trying to improve on purpose, somebody else is, and even if they're not, they might just have those types of training partners around you. And I talked to the guy later. He's like, oh, dude, yeah, don't feel bad. I've got 250-pound guys that like, they do this to me all day long. And that's all I have to defend against all day, So, I mean, it's just experience,
Yeah, sometimes those failures will make you better in the long run.
Right. It's so true, man. But apparently you stuck with it.
Yeah.
So you made it through white belt.
Yeah.
When did you start feeling like you were like in shape and like, this is something that you're going to stick with for a while? I mean, you got your blue belt.
I would say blue belt.
Okay.
And I got a really good picture. I got to frame it one day. I got a picture with Carlson Gracie Jr. giving me my blue belt.
No kidding, dude. Dude, he just come to Aurora or what?
So he he was mainly in the headquarters in Chicago, but he would come
Okay.
out to Aurora once in a while, so I'd get to learn from him.
I see.
But
Okay.
he traveled a lot. Like I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he's always like, I'll see pictures of him on an elephant, him on a beach,
Damn, dude,
him
that's
in
crazy.
Japan. I was like, dude, you're living the lifestyle,
That's
man.
amazing, dude.
But yeah, probably not till blue belt, because my first couple, I would say my first 4 tournaments, I lost all matches.
At blue belt.
But no, at white belt. But after each tournament, I kept learning from my failures,
Yeah.
and I would get better and better and better. And then on my third one I was in Wisconsin. I drove up to Wisconsin to do a tournament. They put me into like the intermediate division, no-gi division, and both matches, I took them all to like the last minute where it was like tied or I was up 1 or down 1, and I just barely lost. And then from that, I was like, wow, I can actually hang with these higher belt guys.
Yeah.
And I feel myself getting better.
I mean, you're probably like just thankful now that you finally have somebody that weighs the same
Right.
as you, after being smashed by all these big guys in your gym,
That it is a problem sometimes, because I'm used to just big guys and their weight. So when I go against someone my size, it's like, oh, what the heck?
Yeah.
I did a tournament at, I don't know if it was.
There's 2 sides to it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like they're also more maneuverable and probably a little bit more a gas tank
Yep.
available to them to, fight back as
Yep.
opposed to like wearing somebody. I've rolled with you, man. And I remember I'm like, dude, like you pushed my cardio to the point where like at the end, cause you kept moving, you kept wiggling, you kept
Yeah.
going, and I was always in trouble. And then at the end, it was finally like, oh dude, okay. Like I'm on my back, and so, but like if you get somebody that also is 150 pounds, 160 pounds, it's like
Back is like, what?
yeah, they don't stop like
Yep.
like the big guys.
I did I was new breed or Naga at purple belt, and this was after just training with big guys nonstop. I hit a sweep and I threw the guy like across the mat. I was like, oh crap, there's my sweep, there's my points, and I lost. I was like, I gotta fix that. But
Yeah.
I've been finding more and more small guys lately, so it's been helping tweak things.
Yeah, that's cool. You do find a way to get around a lot. Like I see you at a lot of different gyms. It seems like you've sort of like put yourself on a schedule where you train at different spots.
Yeah, it's a great thing around here. There's so many gyms, so many open mats to train with, and I've been just going to every single one I can to get rounds with different types of people, different techniques, and it's just helped my overall growth these past 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah. We're talking a lot about competition right now. And I mean, I suppose we're skipping around a little bit, but I mean, we are skipping around a little bit, but like, I mean, you're coaching now, right? I mean, so you coach at,
so I should coach at Street Jitsu at both Justin and Roanoke.
Oh, you do? You're
Yep.
Roanoke as well. Okay. I knew you were in Justin. How did that relationship start? I mean, how did you end up to a point where you were coaching there? Were you already a black belt? Or?
No, I was a purple belt.
Okay.
And I was just helping out. I think in the morning class, I was just helping out a couple guys there, and I was like, oh, hey, this is kind of cool. I can show some people some stuff. Yeah. And then Dennis Thomas, he's the owner of Street Jitsu, and I had just asked him one day, hey, if you ever need help, I can help out. And then about a year later, he was opening up the gym in Justin, and he asked me to be the coach there. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Just try it out, just get out of my shell a little bit. Yeah. And November 2018, started with just a couple people. Started coaching, kind of being, I think I was a head coach by then, doing like four nights a week.
Really?
And then I just really got into it, just kind of seeing the growth with everybody that was coming through that, kind of seeing the same thing I saw when I was coming up, people coming in out of shape. And then 6 months later, it's like, holy, got a 6-pack going, bro. Like, nice. And I just really, I enjoyed helping people. It was kind of my way of giving back to help people through jiu-jitsu, helping them lose weight, helping them gain confidence. And they're like, I'll never compete. And then like a year later, I'm coaching them on the sidelines.
That's crazy, right?
With them, going double goal. I was like, man, I wish I did that at white belt. What the heck?
I mean, what you're describing is I think it's a part of like, not everybody has an opportunity to do that so early either, right? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of times, you might not have that chance, especially around here where there's so many there's so much jiu-jitsu around, right? That as a purple belt or a brown belt, it's difficult to elbow your way in, because there's just so many black belts around. If you go to a class and, they already have 3 or 4 black belts that are there on any weeknight, then, it might not be necessary or even a possibility for you to be able to participate in something like that. But luckily, it sounds like with Street Jiu-Jitsu and Dennis, I mean, like that was something that you were able to take advantage of. And I imagine, I mean, you'll have to tell me, but I mean, imagine it probably helped you improve your own jiu-jitsu quite a bit.
Yeah, allowed me to analyze my game a lot deeper, because it still happens to this day. They'll ask me, like, I'll do a technique, then it's like, why is your foot in that angle? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
And it gets me thinking, like, oh, okay, I put this here because it prevents him from moving, or it's more control or stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's allowed me to expand my game, allowed me to analyze it more, and also just kind of do more research too.
Yeah.
So I can see how other people are doing it. One of the things I'm trying to get better at is kind of adapting the stuff I show to different body types, because we've got lanky guys, bigger guys, and all the times triangles don't work depending on your body type. So it's helped me kind of be more of a better researcher and better preparer to kind of like, okay, I got to make sure I can teach to the thinner guys, the bigger guys, and everybody in between to show how a specific technique could work for them. Because I could show one way to one person, but it may not work for the next person, whether just because of their flexibility or their, the size of their body.
Yeah. I found that like just being able to teach, it also like, I mean, you have to accept the challenge, right? Mm-hmm. But I experienced this coming up a little bit, right? Where I would go to, and I obviously won't say the name of the academy or the school or anything, but like sometimes I would go to a class and there might be a black belt that showed up, like for example, I used to go to a school, we had an over 40 class. And so I went and, it's a guy that organized it. He has no plan. A black belt shows up, right? And he's like, oh, well, hey, would you mind doing it today? And he's like, sure. I don't know any of you guys. I don't know what any of your strengths and weaknesses are, right? And we had fun together, right? But it wasn't really a productive class. And, with the quality of training that's around here, right? If you're invited to be an instructor, like I feel that you need to hold yourself to that standard as well and prepare, have a plan, like not show up and say like, okay, let's see here. Tom is here. That's great. Tom, could you come up and show some stuff in the mount, or whatever? Like, I know you're pretty good at that. All right. Like, no, like we have a game plan here. This is what I want to work on for the whole week. This is a system that it attaches to. We're gonna spar, but we're gonna spar productively. This is exactly the way we're gonna go about it. Like it forced me to step my own game up, right? And like think about things that I would have never thought about. I would have just been a passenger, man. It's Tuesday night. Cool. Yeah. Tuesday night.
I'm definitely thinking more of a systemic way, especially the past probably year. Like we're working on systems. So like right now, or the last kind of 2 weeks, we've been working on like single leg X and how to get into single leg X. So I was like, okay, here's single leg X. This is the main position we're going to focus, but here's all the different ways around it to get into there in the different entries. So it'll be one main topic, but this is how we branch out from there to get to the same position.
Yeah. I feel like being able to like setting up classes like that, you're never going to be able to have I shouldn't say never because there's just not that many absolutes, but like a lot of times it seems like a position or a move, right? It's not going to be everybody's move or everybody's position, right? Like, I mean, the most common one might be like a short stubby guy in triangles, right? Like, I mean, that might not be your move right now. Doesn't mean it never will be. It doesn't mean it won't work, but it might not be your move. So if you're doing something like single leg X and how to enter into it, what sort of sweeps work, what sort of setups you might got, like, it's crazy that, and actually, I think this is one of the coolest things about it is that people are going to take that away, and like the line that's going to draw off of those systems and those like just setups and a week of working ashigarami and single leg up type entanglements, like somebody's going to take that and make it a big part of their game in a way that you can't even imagine right now. Right? I think that's like one of the coolest things about it. And then there's other people that are going to just put it in a bottle, store it for a while, and who knows where it'll come out. But like De La Riva was that way for me. And I had a bunch of lessons, a bunch of weekend seminars and whatnot. And I never clicked. I never used it until one day we had a class on it. And all of a sudden it was just like all of those strings that guys like yourself had planted, or a guy like Formiga had planted, or whatever, like it was just like it was time, like the seed had been planted and I was ready to actually get this thing out of the out of the cabinet for a while, you know? And I think that's like the coolest thing about it, man, is that, you know, you can really change the quality of their training long-term, you know, as opposed to just doing random stuff, you know, and which that's a part of it too, right?
Sure.
I mean, like they're just sort of like, sometimes you just got to go through things, you know, but.
I definitely like the systemic approach since I've been doing that. I feel like it's changed a lot of people's games. I'm seeing a difference in everybody. So I love it.
Do you, how do you and Dennis work the curriculum out there? I mean, is it something you guys collaborate on? Is it something you design for your classes, or how does it actually work?
He's kind of entrusted me just to run the class how I see fit, you know, and I'm very thankful for that. It's led to a lot of personal growth for me to develop lessons, to be kind of understand how people are feeling, you know, what to get more questions out of them, you know, trying to, you know, do all that type of stuff. So, really, like at least when we do tournaments, it's very helpful for me, so I can see, you know, how's everybody doing, where do we need work, or just watching everybody else's matches, like in different gyms, you know, what are they doing, what's being hit the most in the, you know, in this tournament. Is there a specific sweep everybody's doing? Is there a specific sub? Is there a specific area everybody, you know, looking for patterns in the community to see like, okay, this is what we need to work on the next month or two.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Do you cross train a lot at your gym? I mean, do you have people that'll come in that like, for example, this weekend, Tristan and I went out and trained at Argyle. We had an open mat, which is always awesome for me because he's got, you know, it's fun to watch Paul's guys progress, number one, and they are definitely starting to level up, or leveled up actually.
They're getting tougher. They
are, man. And when you're away, it's cool because like, one of the things that I think is really neat about his school is that it's like organically grown, right? And so that's not necessarily unique. There's a lot of schools that are like that, right? But like not around here. And when are not close enough to me to go, you know, travel to on an open mat randomly, and you get a chance to watch people like let's say you and I trained, right? We've trained a lot together, just different places. You're probably not going to see like these, like, oh damn, dude, Dave changed everything, you know, like, oh my God, you know, like I've got bad habits and whatnot. Maybe I can clean up, or maybe you say, hey, look, you've cleaned up this corner. I used to be able to blow around. But like when you get a group that are like, now I've got a couple purple belts, it's like, dude, people's game, like all of a sudden it's like, dude, this guy's almost unstoppable. Like I had a hard time. Like I used to not worry, and now I'm actually really worried, or it didn't go well, you know. It's kind of cool to see. But I was talking to Paul about it later, and I just told, you know, I thanked him for his hospitality and whatnot. He's like, no, thank you guys for coming. Like you helped expose some things, you know. Now we have some things to work on, right? And I was like, dude, what a freaking refreshing way to look at things. You know, like, I mean, Tristan's obviously a, you know, big bully on that side, you know what I mean? He likes to bury his shoulder in you and stuff like that, you know. I'm a tall guy, I'm 200 pounds, you know, which is, you know, maybe a different view for some of the folks, and to have somebody that kind of views that as like an opportunity, as opposed to, you know, oh man, you're going to come in and pollute the water, or you know, teach it my way or whatnot. It's like, no. Some of the stuff worked. Some of it didn't. Some of the stuff I was actually impressed that they got around, and some of it, you know, we were able to expose something, you know, because different training style or whatever. I thought that was like freaking super cool, man. That's what I want to take away as well, you know, and be that way. I
always encourage cross training. Like go to as many open mats as you can, because then you can see everybody else's game. How's your game working against everybody else? Because you might be getting smashed in your own gym, but it's because I've rolled with you 100 times. I know exactly what you're gonna do. So you're not bad. I just know what you're gonna do.
Right.
Then you go to another gym, and it's like you're tearing everybody up.
We had a guy down in Miami, and this guy, this is gonna sound almost like unbelievable, but like he had a cross collar choke that was the best I have ever seen. And he would get, I mean, dude, if he got one hand in the collar, he was so good at the technique that it was a 95% likelihood that you were going to get choked out. And I don't mean like transition into another choke, or like go to his back after a sweep and a scramble and then it ends bad. I'm talking like he is going to get the other hand on the collar somehow, and it's going to end. That's how good he was. And he disappeared for a while, and for like a year. He was a black belt, took time off, and I mean like hard time. Not jail, but but like he didn't train. It wasn't like I'm just going to show up on Saturdays every once in a while. It was like I might not come back. And so long story short, the dude came back, and now the school has evolved as well. And we had people that didn't know him before. And so there was myself and one other guy that were like just regulars at the school, and he shows up, and we all remember the choke, and he mounts us, and both me and this other dude who was a lot bigger than I was got choked. Shocking. But we had another guy, it was a blue belt, and didn't know him, and beat the crap out of him. Like straight up, like didn't even look like it was a problem. And when we got to talking about it later, the issue was that me and my buddy that I was telling you about, who also got the crap beat out of him, just gave him too much credit. And we were like so convinced already that we were going to get choked that we got choked. This other guy had no idea who he was, didn't know he ever had a good choke. And during a year off, it got rusty, and it wasn't even an issue for him. And so it's crazy, man, because like you do get yourself into this little bubble, and you can convince yourself that you're not as good as you actually are because, like, oh my God, he got my leg. He always ankle locks me.
Right.
I guess I'm going to get ankle lock tap,
That's why
start over.
I don't look at my bracket. Like whenever I'm competing, like I don't care. I'm not going to research you. There's too much like, oh, he won Masters or Worlds. Or he's like,
yeah, what good can
quadruple gold. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to go.
I totally respect that, man. What good can come out of it?
Right.
Like, honestly, you could probably, I mean, at your level, I suppose you could watch some of their matches and know what their tendencies are. Like,
sure.
Like he's a wrestler or whatnot. But like, what else?
All right.
You're not going to get the other side of it. You're not going to be like, oh, dude, this is awesome. This guy is so freaking bad.
Yeah.
He's lazy. and the information I found out online is he actually has a heart murmur, and I might be able to make him die. I don't know. Like, what possibly good could come out of your freaking research,
right.
Other than getting in your own head?
I just assume everybody's the world champion black belt, and I just attack them as such.
Yeah.
There's no point in researching.
Do you ever find that when you're I don't know if they're in the bullpen or whatnot, but do you ever like prejudge your opponents when you're looking at them? Like, this dude looks weak, or this dude looks like he's freaking jacked. He's probably super strong.
If there's a huge side difference,
I know that's kind of an exposing question. Let me just say it like this: I do. I don't want to. I'm not trying to judge.
I'm just trying to. Since I don't research, I'm like, okay, am I going against that guy? That guy looks a little bit too big, but he's tiny, so he might be it.
Yeah, he looks older. He looks younger.
Yeah.
Like it couldn't be my guy. Yeah, I'm the same way. The guy. Remember, I told you about the guy that just blew through my lasso on in Houston. I totally judged that guy. I was like, okay, cool. He looks normal. He looks like, cool. I'm definitely trained with guys that are better than him, so I shouldn't have any problem. And the minute we freaking locked up, man, I'm like, holy cow, man, this dude wrestles gators or something so strong, So
I've gotten better at turning my brain off.
That's awesome, man.
You just sit there and take everything in, and then when it's your time, you just go up and do your thing.
How do you? What strategies do you have to do that? I mean, how do you go up there? You've gone. I mean, look. Master Worlds, right? You got bronze last year, right? And black belt.
Yep. At brown belt.
Oh, at brown belt?
Yep.
Okay. You've done tons of jiu-jitsu world leagues, tons of IBJJF, tournaments. You've got a lot of history on the big stage. I mean, how do you go out there and just like have an agnostic view to, what the outcome is, divorce yourself from sort of what is a short-term reality, and then actually stay in the moment?
I think I've just normalized everything. Like this is just a normal day for me. It's
really?
Just going. It's like going out to eat. I don't get it. I'm like, yay! It's Red Robin.
Ooh, dude, Red Robin sounded pretty good right now.
It's just like, okay, it's just a normal day. There's normal people. Everybody bleeds just the way I do. I'm just very relaxed now when I go into it. I probably didn't get to that till probably mid purple belt. I had to change up my pregame routine because I was used to just like, listen to Wu-Tang, listen to Kill Switch Engage before. I was pumped. I was ready to go, but then I would just gas out horribly because my nerves were so ramped up.
Yeah,
that's worst. I listened to Danaher. He was like, I try to normalize competing for everybody. Like it's just jiu-jitsu. It's just make it a normal day, and that's what I focused on. Okay, it's just a normal day. So when I listen to music, it's very calming music. I'll listen to like Bob Marley. I'll listen to Motown.
No Wu-Tang?
No Wu-Tang. I save that for Wu-Tang Wednesdays on our
There
gym.
you go. Oh, cool, dude. That's
Wu-Tang.
awesome, man. I like that. That's a good. We're gonna have to incorporate that little Tupac Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Let's do that.
There you go.
No,
You're
just
welcome, Street Jitsu. You're welcome, Justin.
No, just very relaxing music. Just try to normalize everything. Control your breathing. Control your nerves. It's gonna shoot up. It just is. It's gonna happen. But you need to learn how to manage it.
It's so hard, man.
It takes time.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of time.
Have you found that it's gotten easier for you? I mean, like at black belt now. I mean, are you able to go out there on your first match and actually feel like it's normalized?
Yep. It's still very normal to me, and
that's amazing, man.
I'm going to put this out there. I wonder if this happens to anybody else, but I black out now when I compete.
Really?
Like Chaz
Camelli told me that like, he sort of like loses himself in the moment almost.
So
I'm hyper aware, and that creates the nervous energy that I wish I could just dump, but it's tough.
Yeah, I've just figured out a way to turn my brain off. So like I did Pan Ams last year. I took bronze, and I blacked out through the entire thing.
Really?
Like I had to go back and watch. Like, okay, this is I didn't remember anything that happened. I just knew I took third. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
That's amazing.
And then same thing for Worlds. I blacked out completely till this is like. The Worlds is probably one.
Like, are you talking like straight up, legitimately, like no memory of the event?
No.
Seriously.
So
that's amazing.
The funny thing that happens with a lot of time I compete, I'll black out, but in the middle of a match, like this happened at not World League, AGF. See, I don't even remember what tournament.
Safety concerns here, dude.
This happened at AGF. I blacked out, and I woke up and not that I'm like unconscious, but I woke up in the middle of a match, and I was like, oh wait, I'm competing. What the hell?
That's crazy, dude.
So I would just
Have you ever talked to anybody else that has that experience?
No, I haven't found anybody that does that. So if you're listening to this, let me know.
I'm interested. I mean, Chaz has told me that like he gets lost in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, like but I don't think it's straight up blackout like that. I think it's more like, you know, like he told me that he gets too relaxed. You know, he allows himself to be too divorced from the reality, and that's something he's worked on through brown belt. You know, and he's a really good competitor. You know, for me, I try, like, you know, we were talking a little bit before about Dallas, and Dallas being a hometown tournament, and then getting too relaxed and too accustomed to like just the daily routine, and then it not going well. You know, because I still had all this nervous energy in me. But I had also all the downside of an adrenaline dump and all of the hormonal impacts that come like at the worst possible time, right? But none of the psych up, you know. Yeah. It was just like, ooh, cool, it's Tuesday, whatever. I've already rolled with this guy before. I beat him, he beat me. I'm sure it'll go fine. And then I'm like out there, I'm like, oh, the adrenaline just freaking like fell out of my body and dripping on the mat. It's that's a different experience. When I've talked to, you know, my coaches about this and whatnot. And my first match is usually the one where it's like, yeah, I got to make it through that. But like the open and whatnot, I usually feel really, really good. Like whatever happens. It literally is just another roll, and it's so much more fun. Yep. You know, it is. I don't know if it's because it's not your division anymore or whatnot.
Well, you kind of just normalize it, like, oh, this could be fun.
Exactly. This could be fun. You're warmed up. All the bad juju's out of your body at this point. You know, I mean, you've at least made it to the open class, and like, I don't know. It could be a mixture of that and the fact that it's like it's open, and so it's a little bit different. But that's a fun experience right there, to go out there in front of your friends and your team and everything, and people that you know and that you see at every other tournament, and have a good time, as opposed to like sitting there like or blacking out, for that matter, dude, literally. So you've coming from Chicago, going through the Carlson Gracie system, coming down to Texas. What lead me through black belt? Like, what happened? I mean, obviously you had some really good success as a brown belt. I mean, you're at World Masters, you medal, you're on the podium and whatnot. I mean, when did you actually get your black belt?
So Masters was September? Yeah, September. So I got my black belt towards the end of September. It's like September 28, 29. So that's when I got my black belt.
That's cool. Was it Dennis or?
Yeah, it was Dennis.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. Like Dennis has come through. He trains at Double Five quite a bit, and I mean, when he's not making jokes, he's he's always cracking people up, dude.
Yep.
And I heard he's actually a comedian.
He has done some comedy in Dallas quite a bit.
You'll have to help broker. I don't know Dennis that well, you know,
Yeah.
and he's all over the place now apparently, and training at different places and doing different
He owns
things. He's
what,
got
three
yeah.
or four satellite gyms. He's got his own side business. He does a lot. He's always busy.
That's crazy, man. I don't know how he finds time for all that stuff, but it'd be great to get him on the podcast and hear a little bit of his background. But since you've come up, like you obviously had, you know, kind of an interesting story. You've changed geographically. Did you ever feel like at some point you had plateaued out, or that like, hey man, this might be the end of the road for you on
Every
jiu-jitsu,
single
or?
belt.
Really?
Every single belt. Yep.
Really? Even blue belt? Even like
Blue belt.
earlier
So
on?
each belt level, I had different trajectories. Like blue belt was the first time I tasted gold. Like, so like the first 2 years of blue belt, or first year of blue belt, I was doing great. And then just fell off the table. I was losing left or right. I was like, okay, I don't know if this is for me anymore.
Yeah.
And then I see, you know, someone else competing still, and then I see them doing well. I was like, okay, I'll keep going with it. Then I get purple belt. Purple belt's completely different. I think my first my purple belt match was on Fight to Win against like a world champion purple belt. And
That's a big stage,
I was
man.
like,
I mean,
yeah.
so for somebody who was ready to quit, I guess that's my point.
Just jumped right into
like,
it.
yeah, like why not? I guess I'll do a Fight to Win.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not done after all.
And then, yeah, I think the first half of purple belt was on the downward trend, and then towards the end of it, I was doing the IBJJF circuit, and I had double gold in Austin, double gold in Dallas, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'll keep going. I like this. And then brown belt was kind of over the place until it landed in, you know, the world stage. Yeah, that was awesome.
And then, what was it like getting your black belt from Dennis? I mean, like how does that work? I mean, did he tell you like, hey,
yeah, he
hey,
let
Tom,
me.
It's time for you to be a black belt.
He let me know ahead of time, and I was like, no, not yet.
Not yet. Give me a break.
He let me know ahead of time, and I was like, okay. That's what I was like, okay, I'm gonna go into Worlds. Whatever happens, and you know, it'll be it. I was actually planning on not competing anymore after Worlds, just because I had a busy schedule with kids and everything. I was like, okay, so this will be it. I'll be black belt, and I'll, you know, just focus on coaching and all that.
And teaching. It seems like that's. I mean, heck, man. Even before we started recording, you and I were kind of talking about like. You know, we were talking about the open mat a little bit and doing something after we get back from Vegas and everything. And I'm kind of a competition rookie. I mean, like I started competing heavily at brown belt and I did it early on, but blue and purple, man, I didn't do a whole heck of a lot. And now I'm like, I think this is going to be the last one. I think this is gonna, like I want to do other, but dude, it just never is.
It never is.
Yeah. You're around all this stuff. And I mean, you know, you had a good quote in kind of some of the prep work on this stuff that it's like, should you compete? Should you not compete? If you're afraid to, yeah, you probably should, you know, for that reason alone, you know? So,
and I always tell my guys, you just got to face your fears. You just got to jump in there. Like it's going to be really fun. Like we just had one guy, in Justin, compete for his first time. Like he didn't want to do it.
Which tournament did he do?
Jiu-Jitsu World League.
Okay. Awesome, man. Dude, I was impressed with that tournament, man.
They're run very well.
Very well. I mean,
very
comparatively speaking, like when they did it in Frisco, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Beautiful event center. We had a couple months before that, we did the IBJJF in Dallas and the freaking AC was broken and an ice rink, you know? I mean, I'm like, dude, they play hockey in here, ice hockey. They're playing ice hockey next door. Like, where's that? Feels like a swamp, you know, nowhere for your wife to sit and watch, you know, like you go to the Jiu-Jitsu World League, they have like 20 mats, tiered seating, good vending, good bathrooms and stuff like that. And like super organized. Cause I went there, for our kids. And so I was there at like whatever time, 8, 7 in the morning or something. And like the way they do the bullpens and stuff and have everything super
very
organized.
Similar to how ABGGF is.
It's nice, dude. It's all the same reps, all the same. It's like, what is going on here, man? But, anyway, white belt that competed?
It was his first time.
Okay.
I know when I originally spoke to him, he wasn't interested in it. He was just doing it because he was bringing his daughter into class, who's also a beast. She took my arm off a few times.
Is that right? You better get a little too far ahead.
But he signed up. I was like, yes, I'm so excited, and I got to coach him. And
That's cool.
We were all so excited for him. He won his two matches, and just by domination, I was like, God, yes, this is awesome. I'm so happy to see he got to step in there, at least experience one time.
No kidding, man.
Even if you just do it one time, it's like, just say you did it. At least it's done and you did it.
Yeah, it's a tremendous sense of accomplishment.
Even
like,
if it's
just to get out there and prepare.
Yep.
Yeah. I've had to diet on my last couple, and because I got fat and I needed to lose a couple pounds, and just the work that goes into that, for the couple weeks leading up to it, like keeping your eyes on the scale, making sure that you stay disciplined with what you put in your body and whatnot. Get alone, getting all your training in, and making sure that you're mentally prepared and stuff like that. When you're all finished that night, man, it's such a good feeling, knowing that you accomplished something, win or lose. I've never had double gold. I've never had a single gold, actually. Every one of my competitions has either ended in the finals or, I got conciliatory bronze, but I still, so anyway, this dude's getting gold medals. I mean, don't let me tell you how you feel, but I've always had that, I'm really glad I did this. I feel like this was just the sense of accomplishment, right? Like to prepare for something and then actually complete it. There's something to be said.
You still won. You still, you showed you that you could get to this far. You showed you can be on a good diet. You showed you can, run a mile like you've never been to before. You can do all these things leading up to it and still make some major impacts in your life.
And eventually, as you start progressing up the ranks, obviously, as you know, it's can you hold your own at the level that you're supposed to be in? I mean, look, where am I actually at? On things, on a couple different guys that are my size, my shape, my age, and my belt. Can I win? Or can I at least feel like I should be here? If not, better to know that truth than to wonder, you know what I mean? And if so, that's a good sense that okay, cool, I'm on the right track, there's so much to be said for it. But from a balance perspective, right? I mean, we're sitting here talking all day about jiu-jitsu. We open things up about jiu-jitsu. We're talking about we're condensing 10 years of time on the mat for both of us, into little capsules and whatnot. And it seems like that's the only thing that comes and goes in life. But, obviously that's not the truth, because even this weekend, I know for a fact that you were carting your kids around Little Elm doing dance competitions and whatnot. And right. So stuff comes and goes in people's lives. For you, I mean, have you have you taken any time off? Have you ever had to pull the throttle back and just, you've made it to the pinnacle, right? Where you're a black belt, you're teaching, you're coaching, you're competing. Was there ever a point where, this might be the end of the rainbow for you, or that you needed to actually sit some time out, or what was your experience like?
So when I first moved down here, I took probably 4 to 6 months off.
On purpose, or just transition type stuff?
I started training right away. And then just with work and just getting used to being moved down here, it took a toll on my mental health. Mm-hmm. So I needed to take some time to get myself right before I can, get out and train and do all that again.
Moving's so freaking stressful, man.
That was probably the longest time I took
family.
Off. It is.
Did you guys have kids at the time?
Yeah, we had one.
Okay, and how old was she?
She was 2 or 3.
Yeah, man, that's tough. Yeah. We moved a lot as well, and thank God for my wife, because she's the one that held the family together while I kind of
got everything in order.
Yeah, dude, because I'm starting a new job or whatever the case may be, and got to get house and grown up stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. But 6 months off the mats.
Yep.
Is that it? I mean, you're
yeah, that's the longest time I've been off. Besides, I've had little injuries here and there, but I've always just kind of showed up to at least watch or do light drilling.
Yeah.
But on a just week by week, month to month basis, I take time as needed. We're talking about balance, and I thought about this for a while. There's not really a balance at all. It's kind of whatever the priority is for that day or for that week or for that month. This past weekend, my priority was my family. They had the competition and everything. This week, the priority is my family because we're going out on vacation. When I'm competing, I'll change that level a little bit. I'll get a little more open mat, a little more training. I'll get up a little bit earlier or stay up a little bit later to go work out or go hit an open mat or whatnot. And then kind of same thing with work. When there's a crazy project with work, like last week, I was working more versus training. Mm-hmm. So just week by week, you got to adjust. Obviously keeping your family in priority one. But, ensuring everything at home is good, everything, dishes are washed, the lawn is mowed, trying to make sure everything is done. But, getting back, if you're competing, especially if you're, competing at the highest level, you'll have to make some adjustments somewhere to make sure you're competing.
When you're getting ready for some of these high level tournaments, right? Like you mentioned, you did Pans, you've done World Masters. Do you change your priorities with jiu-jitsu? I mean, like, do you, is that something that you and your wife work on together where for a period of time leading up to it, that, hey, look, I need to get mat time in, or I need to, diet, or how do you manage that in your life?
So we've gone to a calendar system lately just because we're all so busy with dance, jiu-jitsu, work, everything. So we've gone to, there's a lot of communication, as much as possible. I was really bad about it for a while, and I just learned, okay, just got to put it on the calendar. Everything's there. This is what's going on. Just scheduling things out, making sure, the house is in order, make sure things are good. Yeah, I do a lot of early morning classes, like, the street in the morning, or I go to Double Five at 6:30. So that's been really beneficial because the kids are sleeping. It's all good. Yeah. So I try to do more towards that, or I've been doing like late night open mats and Justin, like 8, 9, 10 o'clock when kids are ready for bed, and
do you get a good turnout for that?
Yeah.
Really?
We've gotten
that's awesome, man. I didn't
between
know that.
5 and 10 people usually.
That's a good it's kind of to get good rounds in. Yeah, 5 or 10 rounds.
So wherever I can find time, I will find time to get out there and train.
Nice.
And it's funny, like I kind of do a little bit training with my oldest daughter, and she doesn't know it's more play for us, but we're like, she's really good at arm drag. So like I'll just randomly come up to her like, okay, arm drag.
That's cool.
And,
just
I get a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Even when we like
go, just take your bag and freaking hold on, and see if you can get around.
Yeah. So we do like little stuff like that. So I try to find training wherever I could. If I can't train at all, then it's just mental reps. Yeah. Like if I'm winding down for, to go to bed, I'm envisioning how the tournament will go. I'll go over in my head how the last one went and just get those mental reps to kind of get at least my mind in motion, get my mind working if I can't get my body working.
Is that a technique that you learned? Did you develop it on your own, or was there somebody that helped you develop those mental? I've been working on that quite a bit lately, and which is why I'm asking.
I think I've heard of it before. I think just listening to like pro athletes, kind of envisioned, the game ahead of them. Yeah. But I kind of worked on
at bat for a baseball player, or a series of downs for a football player, or completing a lift for a power lifter, or crossing a finish line. Yeah.
And I think this is where I learned to like let my mind kind of be calm and just kind of let things flow. So I'll just like turn my mind off. Like, okay, here's what's going to happen at the tournament. I'm going to step on the mat, just some random face in front of me. And I just kind of let my mind flow. It's like, okay, I'm going to go for a guard pull. What does he do? Okay. He, pulls down, passes my guard. Okay. What do I do? And I just kind of let my mind play its own mental tricks so I can start getting those mental reps. So my body's kind of used to what's already may not happen.
Yeah. It's building those neural pathways up. It happened both physically and mentally. And the more I've researched it and the more I've heard, I've done the same thing. Like there's a lot of pro athletes that do that. A lot of golfers that will play 18 rounds in their mind. Mm-hmm. It's amazing the string or the links that people go to in some of these visualizations. I don't have that discipline. I probably have that capability, but I don't have the discipline to sit down and go through like over and over and over again for a prolonged period of time. Like, I pass his guard and then I grab his arm.
It takes a lot of practice.
But I have gone through and like tried to like replay a match that went my way or something like that. And I found it to be like really grounding and actually helpful. Yep. And the move that I had been visualizing over and over and over again is something that I'm necessarily really good at. It's like a lapel choke or whatnot. And I was able to do it in Houston, which was the first time like that I had actually gotten that, one, in competition, and then two, something that I had visualized happening over and over and over again. And it just worked out. And I can't help but think that it has a lot to do with the visualization, because it's not a position that I would normally find myself in. Yep.
It helps a lot with the nerves too. You just kind of see the venue, you hear you kind of play the crowd in your head, and just you feel the nerves. And that's what helped with me get a lot over my nerves, is just visualize what's going on, and kind of hear everything that you can, and you start feeling your heart pumping, you start feeling the adrenaline again, then you calm yourself down. You get those reps too.
Yeah. not different than a lot of people. My conditioning has not always been the best. and I've never been known for my conditioning. Like even in the Marine Corps, like I could carry a lot of stuff, but like I was never the rabbit of the bunch that was running in front of people or anything like that. I was just like middle of the pack dude. And in jiu-jitsu it's the same. Nobody's like, oh dude, Dave's got a motor. Like, definitely not, definitely not. They're like, speed Dave up. I think is what most people would say. But one of the guys that had been really helpful to me from like in the gym coaching is James Faulkner. Big dude. I don't know if you know James or not. He owns the school down in Waxahachie, but he's got a really distinct voice and whatnot. And he'll push you. I'd be like, Dave, 30 seconds. No, I'm not gonna quit. Don't get swept. And 90 seconds. Let's go. And just hearing those voices over and over again, like when I'm pushing through a stair workout or something like that, man, like that stuff does work, man. I mean, it really, really does. Kind of help just build up. Like I'm using these big words as some kind of scientist, like neural pathways and whatnot. But like, if nothing else, in the most simplest form, it just helps you believe for yourself that I can actually do this, And so if you've not done that, I highly recommend it. And it sounds like it's something that you're actually putting as an alternative to your training when you can't actually do it. How about like the connection between jiu-jitsu and like just life and your career and whatnot? I mean, like, how do you manage all that? Like you have a successful career. It sounds like you're an active part of your kids' lives as well. And then you and your wife are good enough communicators with one another that you've even developed a calendar system. I mean, there's probably a lot of good little one-off takeaways that everybody could go. But just generally speaking, do you have a philosophy that you adhere to or that you abide by as it relates to like getting all this stuff to sort of work harmoniously?
So I really like Bruce Lee's philosophy is be like water. Just
yeah, man.
You put water in a cup, becomes a cup. You can put water in a teapot, it becomes a teapot. It can flow, it can crash, and that's just mainly just going with the flow. I can plan my day out perfectly, but something may happen tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%.
And if I just no, it needs to happen this way, it's just not going to work out. So it's just being able to adjust to things on the fly. Jiu-jitsu has helped me a lot with that. With work, we can get very, very crazy. Things can go wrong in an instant, and it's just, okay, don't need to freak out. Let's sit, take a breath, figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with life. And, if the kids got sick, this happens a lot. When we go travel, they get sick, and it's like, oh crap, okay, let's figure this out. Let's, go find a doctor, go get him checked out, try to get everything fixed up before we go. So
yeah,
I think it just helped me kind of address problems in a more, what's the best word, but taking a slow approach at it.
Yeah.
Just kind of thinking through everything. Man. Yeah. You just kind of like things happen. You just got to go with the flow.
Yeah. Injuries. I mean, just like, the rapidly changing environment of family type of priorities. I mean, like I forgot that this was happening this weekend, but I had planned this. I mean, what's my priority going to be? I mean, like, it's just going to be a part of it. And I think for anybody that's going to make this a long part of their life, not just the season, I mean, mastering or at least getting a few college credits and and prioritization. I mean, it's a huge part of it. And we've talked about it before on the podcast too, where like the truth is, man, like if you can't get that stuff right, then jiu-jitsu just doesn't matter. No. It really doesn't, because if you get the other stuff wrong, even worse. I mean, forget about getting it right or getting a good grade on it, right? I mean, like if you fail it, you won't have jiu-jitsu anymore either. Right. You know what I mean? Because everything else around you is going to crumble. So if you're going to do some of the higher level stuff like you're doing, I suppose, then you better figure a way out, right? I mean, to have, I don't know what the word would be, not thick skin, but like to be agile enough to.
That's a popular word in our industry, agile.
Agile, yeah. We're gonna pivot. Pivot is probably one of the most overused corporate colloquialisms right now. Pivot means like I didn't plan. You're gonna have to pivot. Guess what? I need a PowerPoint on this. Right. You need to pivot everything you're doing. So. Yeah, for years, it's crazy. Like I see guys like yourself that work hard and then, at the same time figure out a way to kind of like bring all this stuff together. I'm training a lot now. Like it's been this over the last couple of years has been a big priority for me, but it's been a priority because I've had the luxury of making it a priority. I failed miserably in blue belt years and early in purple belt years on like, it didn't, I mean, I'm not ashamed to say this, but like, I mean, it certainly affected where I'm at right now. It didn't take a lot to blow me over, you know? And if like, I had a very stressful job and a tough time building the career that I built. And like, man, I made that priorities A, B, and C. And there was a lot of cleanup on the other side that had to happen as a result of it, you know, both in areas of my life that don't have anything to do with jiu-jitsu, but certainly with jiu-jitsu, you know.
Sure.
And it wouldn't, when I go back and I like deconstruct some of that stuff, forget about the personal stuff for a second. Don't forget about it, but like, you know, not focusing on that for a second. On the jiu-jitsu side, dude, it wouldn't have taken like, but a very marginal amount of incremental effort in order to like make it have worked, you know, like I don't want to go tonight because I'm not feeling 100%, or I had a really heavy lunch. Like, what in the world are you you know what I mean? Or like, I've been working too hard lately, so I'm going to go home and freaking, you know, do, you know, other unhealthy things or whatever, you know. Like, one of the things that has been an important part about jiu-jitsu to me, and I got to risk sounding redundant here, but I think that it's almost been like the way that it's been able to work through injuries and stuff has been getting comfortable with jiu-jitsu no matter what. You know, like I mentioned this morning, or I mentioned this weekend, coming off of antibiotics, you know, like that was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, that would have been an easy excuse. Like, I'm good. I'll wait another week until I can catch my breath again after standing up twice. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But like jiu-jitsu is just one of those things. It's like this martial art that's all about, you know, like, I don't know, being able to control yourself, being able to control other people. And that doesn't always mean like you're going to be the one that's smashing. There's always a role for you on the mat, you know? And even if you're not the guy that, you know, you can be like fully throttled up, fully dominant and whatnot, you're still somebody else's training partner, you know, and people need you on the mats. And so, anyway, I don't know why I'm rambling on and on about that, but
no, that's a good point. It's just being a good partner, even if you're, you know, you're not feeling good, you don't have to. I think the one thing that stuck with me when my first coach is like, you don't have to win in the match. You don't have to win against your team partner. No one's going to care. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
You're here to help each other grow.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're like, you're in a funk, you're not, you know, training well, whatever it is, you can still help that person, you know, that next to you to get better.
It's so true, man. You know, if you need to take time, right? Like, there's some obvious things that wouldn't be worth missing, right? Like missing your kids' dance recitals, right? To go to open mat, probably not the best life decision. You know, there better be a really freaking good reason, you know, like Hicks and Gracie's showing up or something like that. I don't know if that's even good enough, you know, but like, or like this is specific competition prep for something that's happening next week or what. I don't know. I'm trying to think of reasons why, but like an everyday type of a thing, like that's an easy one, right? But you know when it's a legit excuse and when it's not. You know, I'm injured. Are you sure you're injured? You know, because like you're moving around. You know, yeah, I can't use my shoulder. Right? Really? You're freaking drove here. You know, like no, it's actually just it's not 100%. Oh, okay, cool. Because that's different. You know, you can work off your back, right? Or you could work off your strong side. You know, but I'm not going to be able to give you a good round. Like, dude, you're a freaking body. You know what I mean? And also your jiu-jitsu is going to get so much
still
better.
Drill.
Yeah, man, exactly. So it's easier said than done, but it is. It's so much. It's so freaking true. And the minute you check your ego and accept the fact that, hey, look, you know, maybe I could train 70% today. Maybe I legitimately can. You know, the funny thing is a lot of people probably wouldn't even know, you know. Sure. Like, I don't think if I rolled with you and you weren't 100%, I wouldn't even know. I would just, you know, like, I don't know. It's just, we just had a roll. I mean, it's all it was, you know, it was as simple as that, you know. So it's just funny how much of this dialogue comes up in your own head, you know. So moving on and talking through a little perspective here. You've obviously got a unique perspective because obviously you're a black belt, you're a competitor, but also you're a coach. So you see people that come into your gym, probably from all different walks of life, from the brand new white belt to, you know, somebody who might've been training for a little while. Generally speaking, you know, how do you guide them into this, you know, crazy world that we've all, you know, become so accustomed to, and get them to make it through those, that initial tidal wave of just,
Sure.
overwhelming, tumultuous information coming all angles. What
So,
advice would you give them?
I'll just tell them get used to failure because it's going to help you grow.
So true. Well, we just talked about that, right? I mean, like, yeah, exactly.
Like we've had a power lifter come in, he's like, oh, I'm going to beat everybody up. And, he chose me. And I was like, no, it's not going to work out, dude.
Yeah.
But, no matter your background, unless you're like a D1 wrestler, then yeah, you're going to have some good success. But, just from a general, thinking perspective, the change is going to come slowly. You're going to get better slowly. It's not a pill you can take to get better tomorrow. It's going to be slow growth throughout, months, years, or whatever it is. Just take your time. It's fun. Don't get too much in your head into it. Just come in, enjoy the environment, enjoy the people, just have fun.
Easier said than done, right? Like when you're brand new,
Yep.
You just came in, maybe you're maybe you've got an athletic background, maybe not, but like, man, those are tough, I don't know, first few weeks, I suppose,
Sure.
First few classes. What makes it worse is that, like, to me, I always, when I see somebody that I mentioned the guys that are, smaller guys. Yeah. I got a few guys that are like probably on their, I don't know, 4th or 5th week at this point, and I feel like they're about to pass over that zone where, like, probably going to be able to start going to the advanced class soon and maybe like really open up their eyes to, deeper rounds and stuff and real rounds.
I love seeing that when they pass that zone. Man. It's like, yes, you
made it.
You've taken the red pill.
Yeah, you made it. Exactly. You took the red pill. For people who know what that red pill feels like, right? But maybe kind of took a little bit of time off, life, moving, whatever the case may be. Maybe you get some guys like that walk into your school, maybe not. But I mean, you've most likely seen them in your journey. What do you tell them? I mean, how do they come back? How do they stay? I mean, what's the world like for somebody like that under you?
I just encourage them, show up as much as you can. You don't have to show up every day, just get there. If it's even if you're running late, just come. We want you there.
Yeah, right.
We want you to come hang out. If it's 30 minutes, come get your work in, then, you can head home. But, it's a long journey. For me, it was 10 years. You just got to take it a day at a time. You adjust as needed depending on your life situation. But, just always, try to come in.
Yeah. When life inevitably gets in the way, you could be a dance recital, but sometimes it's an injury, right? Sometimes it could be anything, but as tough as I'm making it, or tough as I sound like maybe I'm trying to make myself sound, like, hey, I got back on the mats, my shoulder hurt, right? Dude, I've had plenty of instances where, rib cartilage, shoulder, hip, knee, ankle, go down the joint chain, and there's been something on there that has been bad enough where my honest voice, I know I needed to sit out. What advice do you have for people that inevitably come across something like that and need to rest?
I think especially probably these past 2 years, I've dealt with a little more injuries. Nothing to keep me off seriously for the long mat, but just know your limits. You got to draw a red line at some point, and obviously that takes some time. It takes some adjustments of that red line, but I know when I'm bad. I know when, like, okay, this is not feeling good. Yeah. I'm gonna, you
got to be honest with yourself.
Yep. I'll try to check my ego. If like, a lower belt past my guard, okay, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. Probably the best day of their
life. No, it's just, knowing your limits. When you're hurt, you definitely can come to the gym, but, maybe take it easy. Maybe just watch technique, or maybe just do the technique and don't roll. Just know your limitations, set your limitations, and try not to pass it. Especially if you're an active competitor, you got to know, like, how far you can push and then when to draw back.
Yeah. If you have somebody that wants to do that, what are the rules of engagement at Street Jitsu for you guys? Like, if you have somebody that is hurt but wants to come and watch, is that okay?
Oh, that's perfectly fine. I definitely encourage it. And anytime one of our guys say, I'm hurt, I'm not going to come back for a while, I was like, just come hang out. And even if you can't train, we still love to have you. We'll still come and, we're not going to exclude you from the class. You're going to come here. I probably still will poke fun at you during class. You're going to be involved. You're going to be involved no matter what. So we want you here. Even if you can't physically do it, you can watch, take notes, do mental reps, all that stuff. You can still come hang out.
Yeah. We're going on, I'll have to actually calculate what the percentage at this point, but it's not 100%, but the overwhelming majority of instructors have said that as well. And, but if you were to ask the student base, I would say that it's far less people that actually think that that's possible or okay, which is why I always like to clarify. And like, you have to take, if you're a student, no matter where you're at in your journey, I think that you have to take ownership of your training at some point, right? There's a hierarchy, right? I mean, there's a skill hierarchy, and then there's also just a basic respect chain, I suppose, that you need to be a part of, right? Like, I'm not saying that you just go do your own thing. Like, hey, Tom, I'm going to sit over here. I'm going to come in and out whenever I want. You know what I mean? But people need to take ownership of their own training. It's your body. Like, you know what you can do and what you can't do. And like, if you don't feel comfortable being in a class, please don't freaking quit. You know what I mean? Because that's what I've normally seen is this, like, I'll have a jiu-jitsu shirt on and I'm lifting weights or something. And I had a guy the other day, I had a Roll the World shirt on. And yes, Sam, roll the world, plug and roll the world with the merch. And I was doing squats and he came over. Clearly this guy's a grappler, right? And I can tell just by the shape of his face and his ears and everything else, and just like the fact that he's a wrestler. So had done jiu-jitsu, and jiu-jitsu was kind of like I don't know if you would call it, like, wrestling was sort of the gateway drug, and he got hurt, and he that was his thing. He was like, man, here's what I did, and here's the scar on my knee to prove it, and he had some surgery and whatnot, and he never came back. And I was like, dude, come train with us. And he's like, no, I'm really worried about my knee. I'm like, you're going to be fine, man. Like we need guys like you, like good wrestlers, somebody that's going to come smash and somebody that's going to come help take our game to the next level as well. And if your freaking knee is hurting that night, or you feel like, you've kind of pushed it to the limits, all good. Yeah. This isn't University of Arizona, or Arizona State, or wherever it was that he went, like you're going to, it's okay. You're freaking 40 now, dude. The scholarship's over. So, anyway, it's always heartbreaking for me to see that, man, where somebody is. The other side of it too is that, at a certain point, and maybe I'm an example of this, is when you're at a little bit higher level and you've taken some time off and you come back in, there's a huge ego component, because you've got conditioning that you've got to overcome, and maybe you're in shape, maybe you're not, but then you've also got like just the rustiness of, and you've already had the red pill. You guys got anybody like that? Or do you have any advice for somebody that, maybe is a little bit longer in the tooth, a deeper blue, purple, brown belt, something like that, and comes back after a significant vacation from our wonderful world?
I always tell them, just go back to basics. Worry about basic guard, basic passing, basic, everything. Don't worry about the barambolos, the squid guards, the worm guards, all the, the crazy stuff that you'll see on YouTube. Just worry about the basics. No one here is going to, make fun of you because you lost, or you got tapped by a blue belt, white belt, whatever it is. We're just happy you're back in. Just, take your time, get in, start getting used to everything, and then you'll be back to yourself before you know it.
That's good advice. Yeah, you're right. Like, nobody is going to make fun of you or judging you or whatnot. And if they do, it's in an affectionate way, you know what I mean? Mostly because that was, like, what the other side looks like, right?
And I think it's harder, to me, I think it's harder for people coming from team sports, because you want to be that star pitcher, that star quarterback, whatever it is. So
hold the ball.
So when you come to like, a gym like this, we're like, okay, who's behind me to come take my spot? And it's like, no, we're all here to make you better.
Yeah.
And we're all here to make everybody better. And that's what I try to, when we get somebody new, and it's like, we're here for you. Yeah. Okay. Eventually you're going to be here for us. It doesn't matter if you're a white belt, if you never had any training, you're helping me. Even me competing at black belt, you are helping me every day. Yeah. And I was like, just please come in. Doesn't matter your skill level. Just come in. Yeah.
And plus you never know, man. Like, I've heard this on multiple different occasions. I've not stuck around long enough I've had to move several times, but like, I've definitely gone back and seen people that, I know the day they walked in as a white belt and they got a black belt now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you never know, man, like what that journey is going to end up for somebody. So like you might think if you're that, you know, salty blue belt that has a new purple belt that comes in, I mean, you never know like what journey that they're going to actually end up on, you know? And so you're, like you said, man, we need everybody. And, or somebody that's going to develop that little piece of your game that you need that could become a really good leg locker. They could be have just a vicious open guard game or something and they can't get past. I mean, like, dude, people develop strengths and weaknesses, you know, and so that's just part of the mix. So kind of coming towards the end just a little bit here, but like before we get there, I think we talked a little bit about just kind of game planning and intent and whatnot. And this is something that I focused a lot more on lately. Because, and I guess you wouldn't think about it like this, but the fact that the more that I've trained, the more I've had to focus on how do I make my training productive today. You would kind of think it'd be the other way, like, cool, man, I can train every day if I want to. But the reality for me has been that if I don't go in with a game plan or an intent, like a very purposeful intent for what I want to get out of that session, then like the training sessions just roll together. And I do feel like I've got a little bit of a burn on my body where there's a wick, man, and you light it. And once that goes off, you need to take time, right, in order to kind of hit reset and get things back on track. And so if you're going to be using some of that wick, I've just found like, you better do something that you whatever you do, you better do it on purpose. You know what I mean? If I'm going to work on bottom today, please don't let it be because I just too freaking lazy to get up, you know, like that's when I need to do, or I need to try like hell to get back on top. Do you have, I mean, and not everybody agrees with that. I've had plenty of people that are just like, dude, freaking making it too difficult on yourself. You know, like why, what is your philosophy there, man? I mean, like, do you have any intent that you go in with? Do you have a game plan in your training? Do you prepare for competitions with steps in mind, or do you just freaking roll and go with the flow and enjoy the joy of jiu-jitsu?
So leading up to it, I kind of take an assessment like, okay, what's working, what's not working, what areas of focus do I need to work on, especially if I don't have a lot of time to train, you know, kids, work, you know, whatever it is. Like if I get 2 sessions in the week for whatever reason, then those specific 2 sessions I'm working on a specific guard or a specific position I'm having trouble with. Like leading up to Worlds, I was focusing on 2 scenarios. It was getting the takedown, getting an ankle pick takedown, or pulling guard and going to Dela X. And that's all I worked on for about 2 months. And that's all I focused on.
So what would that look like for you? Like if you were, I mean, looking at that the ankle pick and doing a Dela X, what would a training session entail? I mean,
so lots of, you know, starting from that same position or the same start, you'd slap, bump, boom, boom, and we're going right for the takedowns. And I'm just trying to see all the different scenarios that happen. It's like, okay, I get it, but he doesn't fall a certain way. What do I do? I'm looking for all those different scenarios. So it's like 1 round, 2, you know, multiple rounds, 1 minute rounds, and I'm just looking for that takedown. You get take you down, I get to my thing, then we get back up and restart again. So we're both trying to take each other down for whatever reason. Are
you telling your training partner this? I mean, is this something that you're
I'll just say like, hey, we're gonna do 1 minute rounds. We're focusing on takedowns. And
you're running the class or what? Okay.
Yep. We're just focused on takedowns, and then I'm looking for that specific move, and that's what I'm going for, just full stop. That's what I'm going for, just nonstop. And even if I fail, it's like, okay, I put in the back of my mind what went wrong there, you know? And then I just look for all those different scenarios. Okay, he falls this way, what can I go to? Okay, if I miss the pull or I miss the ankle, I can go right to guard, and I can go to my Dela X. And that's all I worked on for Worlds, and that's what I went for. Even if it didn't work out, I can, again, use those scenarios again. Okay, he didn't fall a certain way. Now I'm going to go here because I see, okay, he posted his hands there. I can go for a sweep or a sub, whatever it is. So I just try to go through all the scenarios as much as I can to kind of get a feel for where things may fall depending on what happens in the opponent.
Yeah. On top of the productivity that provides, I mean, like, do you enjoy it more, or do you feel like that makes it actually like more like work?
No, I actually enjoy it because I know I'm making that specific skill much more sharper. Yeah. Because, if we do just a normal, 5-minute round, we may get one chance of doing a takedown, and the rest of the time we're just on the ground.
For sure.
Or I go against someone who's really like a wrestler. He'll take me down. I'm like, okay, I didn't get a chance to get.
You didn't
my
even get to
takedown,
try,
so.
yeah, because you went with somebody who that's their strength.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that situational training has really helped me quite a bit. Starting from focused it more on brown belt, especially now on black belt, and focusing on those positional trainings to get more reps, to see all those different areas of improvement I can find in my parts of the game.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. That's the positional stuff is something that I need to do. I need to do more of. Like, I guess the challenge is that everybody needs to be on the same page if you're going to do the positional stuff. Like, if you're going to do short 1-minute rounds or bursts or whatnot, then the class has to do it as well. I don't run the class like you do, so that might be a little bit different. But I like that as well. And how do you come up with your intent? How do you come up with your game plan? Is this something that you've just it's an area that you need to work on, or it's something that you want to implement, or do you have somebody that guides you along the way, or how do you go about figuring out exactly?
So the good thing about going to all these different open mats and everything, I can pick the brains of everybody who trains there, right? I can take knowledge from all the black belts, brown belts,
fresh people to poke holes in your game too.
Yep.
Fresh bodies that are like I was the cross choke guy,
yep.
right? Like they don't know what your strength is. Boom, it's just a round.
Exactly.
Let's see what works.
No, I mean, like right now, like especially like the past probably few months, I'm more takedown oriented because of like. I don't even think there was any cause for it. It's just like, okay, I want to learn takedowns, and I'm just going to try to get good at that and change up my game a little bit to be more takedown focused. So
that's cool.
And that's what I'm looking for in the next probably couple tournaments is, okay, I'm going to look for more takedowns because I'm usually just pulling guards. Like, I don't want to pull guard no more. I want to get on top and start smashing. Yeah, and I just kind of assess it through my roles as well. Just like, okay, I'm just feeling more dominant on top, so let me focus on how do I get on top more. Yeah. So I just start going back to the corporate setting, the 5 whys. Why did this happen? Mm-hmm. By the time you get to the 5th why, you should know exactly the root cause of what happened. So if I took if I lost a specific way of like, okay, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? By the time I'm at the end, it's like, okay, I know what happened. Now I know how to fix it. Yeah,
just chain of events, basically, I suppose. All the way back to like, why am I on my back all the time? We'll start us with I'm pulling guard. Why? Yeah. Because I don't know many takedowns. Why? Because I don't train takedowns. Why? You know what I mean? Because we're not doing enough situational work, or or I have a small mat, or or whatever. You've been blessed, man, because you've only had to take a little bit of time off, right? Mm-hmm. Like the injuries haven't been something that have been insurmountable for you. It doesn't sound like any major surgeries. So like whatever it is that you're doing, I mean, I suppose that you ought to probably bottle that up and stick with it. But over the course of a decade, I mean, there's always things that as you postmortem things, you could do a little bit differently. Going down that path and going back in time a little bit. I mean, are there things that would you train differently? Did you do too much, too little of something, or would you have another perspective on elements of jiu-jitsu if you could, do some calibration in the past? I
would definitely be more focused on situationals. That's definitely early on.
Like early on, you mean like early belt levels?
Like probably like blue belt, because white belt you're just kind of learning the basics. Blue belt is when you really start seeing. Yeah,
you just do a terrible amount of stuff over and over again.
That's definitely one thing. I wish I worked more on basics, especially passing guard. I feel like I didn't really start passing guard until like brown belt. I was just I was going against bigger guys, so I was okay. I'm on my back all the time, whatever. I just started pulling guard everywhere, and that's all I did. So I didn't really get good until guard pass until probably brown belt, and that's when I really started working on the situationals and getting used to all those different scenarios. So that was the best thing, and also just strength and conditioning. Like getting more into that has helped me out quite a bit, especially staying even more healthier. Like I don't get as, I get little injuries here and there, but as I've developed more of that strength and conditioning program, like I don't get as much problems as I used to. Yeah. Especially
you actually have a regimented strength and conditioning program? Yep. Like, high level, what is it?
So I kind of split it. Like I'll have a heavy day where I just lift heavy crap, like lift and push heavy crap
like
as much as
deadlifts, squats,
deadlifts, squats,
cool.
all
so
that type
old
of
school,
stuff.
Straight up strength work.
The other thing, especially now as the summer, I'll focus on like swimming because it's not as, it doesn't take a toll in your body as like doing weights does.
Oh,
so
man.
like that type of cardio.
An equalizer, dude. I mean, like people get in the pool that think they're in shape and they realize it really quickly. Wrestlers, I mean, the works, dude. I mean, it's just there's an attritter because you have to have a pool.
Exactly.
or access to one, right?
No, but it's like a heavy day followed by like a more lighter cardio session type of thing, you know, not focused on heavy weights, but lots of reps.
Interesting.
And then I'll split it to where it's like a jiu-jitsu time. Like I'm spending 5 minutes on doing this superset, and I'm just kind of going through the sets until that timer runs off so I can mimic like a actual match.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting. That question came from a similar question that I heard asked to some really, really senior and older jiu-jitsu guys. Laborio was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Dedeco, Farmiga's teacher, was one of them and whatnot. And it was in just kind of an informal setting, and like everybody just unanimously said, I trained too much jiu-jitsu exclusively, right? It's the temptation, man. I mean, it's like, dude, and it is true. Like if you want to get better at jiu-jitsu, like, oh, I'm going to do this CrossFit movement. Like, man, it might not help your jiu-jitsu as much, you know, but what it does help is you stay more, what would the word be? I wanted to say resilient, but it's got different words. It just keeps you more put together, you know? And I'm convinced that because of just strength deterioration in my body from training too much jiu-jitsu and not doing enough other things, it's what led to injury otherwise.
I definitely felt it as I got older. My knees started getting pretty bad.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of initially launched me into doing more strength and conditioning. So I focused on
how many days a week are you doing it?
Right now 2, but I like to get at least 3.
2 to 3 is kind of where I'm at as well. But I've changed it up enough where like I don't do any, we'll have to talk about this later, man, because it's way too deep of a rabbit hole. But like I personally don't do any strength movements that are complementary to jiu-jitsu. Like I used to, like I'd take a kettlebell and I'd roll with it basically, you know, or I'd sit up and do like little hip outs or whatever, you know. It's not that I'm against that. It's just that, you know, you only have so much daylight and so much wick on your body, like I was talking about before. And so like, I want to use my strength time to do pure strength movements. I don't know if that's right or wrong, you know? But I'm super interested in the whole jiu-jitsu community's response to this because like, you know, the truth is, dude, I mean, jiu-jitsu freaking rips you apart, man.
It does.
It's a testosterone destroyer, and it will, I mean, like just the chronic inflammation that it creates throughout your body. And like the older we get, I mean, you just have to have other things that you can do, but they're just freaking boring, you know. Doing 3 sets of 10 of anything is when you could be rolling with your friends. I mean, it's just, it sucks to have to make that a priority. Yoga is a great option, obviously.
Yoga is great
as well. DDP
Yep.
Going way back to 2 hours ago. Yeah, we were talking about that. It's craziness, man. That's interesting. Like I will have to, well, like I said, I'll have to pick your brains a little bit more on that once we get a little bit.
I was having knee problems and back problems, and I was like, okay, I got to change something up. And that's when I started lifting more, and like, I don't have as much anymore. Yeah. And since I compete a lot, I've focused on like, you know, I've seen what athletes do, right? They're getting massages, they're getting chiropractor, they're doing ice baths and all that. So I started going to a chiropractor, and that's helped even more. So just kind of focusing on your body, you know, listening to it. If you need help, you know, go get checked out, get a chiropractor, someone to help you stretch, you know, anything that's going to help your body out. It'll help your longevity. Yeah.
It's crazy, man, because it's like we assume this in the jiu-jitsu world because we're athletes. But like, there's a lot of people that just don't have knowledge of this, like just basic, like body mechanics and how to take care of yourself, and like, just like anything, like the basics of flexibility and stuff, you know, and no different than getting into jiu-jitsu in the first place, right? Like if you're not exposed to it, you know, coming up, then how would you know, you know? So I feel like as a community, we need to have, it's not like it's hard to find. If you want to go out and find this information, it's there, you know, but like, I feel like we don't always do as good of a proactive push on this, you know, like active cool downs, for example, or just like really focusing on longevity in jiu-jitsu from a physical perspective, you know. It's because it's no fun. Yeah.
Actually, I changed our morning routines. I coach the morning classes. I always hated warming up, so it's like, all right, we're jumping into this. We'll do active warm-ups. Yeah. But since I've been looking at, you know, stretching, a little bit more yoga, I've kind of done a little bit of a yoga approach. Like we're gonna do, you know, these yoga warm-ups for like 3-4 minutes just to get stretched out. Then it'll lead to like an active jiu-jitsu warm-up where it'll be like little drills here and there, and then we'll get into the technique. And once we're fully warmed up, then we'll roll for like 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is. But yeah,
I totally agree with that, man. I think that's enormously important in the morning, especially like your body has been asleep for 8 hours, you know, probably hasn't been very active at the house before. You might not have even woken up, but 20 minutes ago, like I'm a morning guy too, as you know, and there's guys that I know for a fact have literally been awake for 10 minutes when they walk in the gym. You know, they just have the luxury of youth on their side right now.
Sure.
But I mean, at a certain point, dude, every single time that I've gotten, no, that's not true. I was going to say every single time I've gotten injured, but like I have gotten injured predominantly in the mornings, like doing dynamic movements. My favorite, the story I love to tell, is when I ripped this rib cartilage. It was trying to throw a guy, and I wasn't properly warmed up. It was our first round, and I didn't warm up enough. You know, once again, I need to take ownership of my training. It doesn't matter what the group is doing. Like I'm freaking 45. I need to say, like, I know my body better than anybody else does, and I don't feel like I'm ready to do this. If that's not an option to do a warm up, cool. Well, I probably shouldn't be working Uchimata with a black belt. You know what I mean? Like maybe I need to ease into this a little bit, or pull guard, or let my guard get past while my body warms up, my hips open up, my spine starts to get a little
usually
bit more
the first round I'm just kind of flowing through. Even if they're being aggressive, I'm just flowing through, trying to get make sure everything seems right, kind of doing my pre-checks. Okay, shoulder feels good, knee feels good. Okay, I'm good to go in the second round. But
my body's I'm flowing now. I got a little sweat going on and stuff like that. Well, so ask yourself, why wouldn't you do that? Answer: ego.
Exactly.
Right? Because he's a blue belt, you know. And
I don't need to warm up for this guy.
Yeah, right. Or I'm not going to let him pass. Yeah. You know, he seems super energetic, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I need to turn it on, dude. I'm going to strengths, and I'm going to, you know, like, I'm not going to let him pass mode, which, you know, God forbid that leads to injury. How did you get injured? I was rolling with a blue belt. What's worse? You know what I mean? What's worse? Saying that and been sitting on the sideline and getting worse, or pulling back for a round, giving him a little bit of an opportunity to work with a black belt or a brown belt or whatever, and then living to fight another day. It's freaking tough, man. You know, you had one of these upbringings. Like some people come up from wrestling, and it's a natural segue in. A lot of people found the UFC and then found their way in. You know, you didn't have that wrestling background, and you know, it seems like if it wasn't for the intervention of some people in your life, like your wife, for example, doing the Groupon with Sensei Terry, I mean, you never know, man. You might not be the black belt that you are right now. For you personally, I mean, when you look back at it all, would you have put yourself in Texas, teaching, literally being, you know, the face of jiu-jitsu for new students in the area?
No way.
It's kind of crazy when you put it that way, right?
Trying to stay out of jail and not get shot. That was my goal.
Dude, you're the guy looking for guys like me,
right? It was like,
get this guy off the street.
I'd never imagined being a black belt, fighting on pro stages for Fight to Win, Sub Hunter, going to Vegas, doing Master Worlds. Like that's just all like, you know, I placed a lot of glass ceilings on myself in my life through like every stage. Yeah. And I just keep pushing through, you know, and this was definitely a major glass ceiling to be, you know, where I'm at today, even, you know, financially and family, work, like, you know, I passed by like what I thought my life would be. Yeah.
You would be one of those guys that if we could get you involved directly in the MAT mission, you know, because, you know, you grew up in South Chicago, you've seen, you know, what the other side of this world that you've created for yourself looks like, you know, and like you said, man, that glass ceiling 100% is there for a lot of people. Right. I mean, and I'm not trying to downplay other people's, you know, worries in life or whatnot, but like, if you don't have anybody to look at to say like, man, I could make it out, I could be Tom, then you know, it's life can seem a little bit overwhelming, man.
Love to help.
Yeah, dude. Well, I'll definitely stand by for that. I'll have to get you the rest of the details and whatnot, and everybody else out there as well. I mean, we're definitely looking at expanding that.
And that's what those kids really need. They need that role model. I mean, we've got people to look up to in the hood, but it's not the people you want to be looking up to.
Yeah, like white space on the calendar is not necessarily the most healthy thing. I mean, so Corey, dude, I'm acting like I've got a huge role. Corey Baker is the one that freaking spearheaded Braid 7, which is the initiative that's down in Fort Worth. And I've talked with Corey a lot about it. Sam goes there quite a bit. I mean, his family goes there. His kids go there and train too sometimes to participate and help out and everything. And just kind of having the conversations with Corey about, you know, what his priorities are. His priority last time I talked to him was, dude, I need to expand the class offering because summer's coming. I'm like, awesome, summer. Like, what, is there not AC at home? He's like, dude, there's nothing, you know, and nothing good is going to happen when school lets out. Like, that's my point. That's why I need to have more, you know, that's why the resources are important. That's why adding capacity to the schedule, which means you need instructors, you need people that can go down there and actually participate and whatnot, you know? And I was like, dude, I didn't think about that. Why? Because I'm in a bubble here in Flower Mound, living in Narnia with talking lions and happiness and freaking all this other shit. You know, like it's easy to just lose track of that stuff. You know,
I'm still just kind of amazed this area, or you know, just getting out of the inner city. You're just like, oh, you guys got air conditioning. You got these crazy schools.
Yeah, right.
You know,
exactly,
it's interesting seeing the other side. You know.
Right. And that's it, is do you have the opportunity to see it? And this is like, you know, definitely not trying to like, everybody's got their demons, man. Everybody's got things, including people that have, you know, a very fortunate economic situation, right? Like somebody's kids who grew up in a good, like, it's not my kid's fault that their dad was successful, you know, or that I was able to like provide a good life for them. You know, it's up to them to push themselves, right? Right. And it's up to me as a parent to expose them to as much as I can and make them thankful for what they've got, right? Which I think that they are, and I'm sure that's the way you've, you know, raised your kids as well. You know, but like understanding that there is another side, and not everybody has the luxuries and the options and the opportunities that you've got, and being able to give back a little bit with all of this goodness that we've got. We got to spend the last 2 hours talking about something that we're both super passionate about, you know, and have spent a lot of time and money and resource and energy on, and the opportunity for everybody else that has been able to, you know, sort of enjoy that as well, to give back a little bit, man. The opportunity is right. Let me tell you, it's there, you know, so I will 100% hit you up on that. What is, and I know you and I talked a little bit about, before we get started, about like our upcoming road to Vegas and whatnot. And we definitely need to do the open mat where we chronicle this a little bit. And so, if you're up for it, dude, then this is the open invite right here. I think that would be super fun, you know, because, you know, we'll be going together. So I know you're competing. What else is out there, man? I mean, what is it? What is the next glass ceiling for yourself, or what is the next big challenge, or what can we look forward to with Tom Rodriguez?
Like I said, I was at brown belt. I was kind of done with competing, I think, and then coming to it like an advantage from the finals, that just left that's a dagger in the heart. I was like, okay, I'm coming back, and I'm gonna
losing literally by a subjective decision, right?
So I mean, my long-term goal is to win Master Worlds at black belt. That's my long-term goal. I mean, right now the focus is, at least for right now, is kind of my family. Like I say, the kids are doing their dance competitions and all that.
So cool, man.
My wife is starting a new career, so I'm trying to support her there. Amazing. So they're kind of my focus right now. Is getting them, you know, ready to go, get them all set up.
Amazing.
I'm gonna get a couple more competitions in.
So you're not done competing after all.
I'm gonna keep, you know, I'll find time. I competed a month ago or so, you know, it was fun. You know, just keep competing. I have some personal goals that I'm going to look at, or, you know, personal things that I'm working on in the background. I'm getting heavy into investing, like stock market and all that stuff. Man. So, you know, looking for
pass on some tips.
What's the word? Passive income, you know, financial security, or you know, all that stuff. So that's, you know, that's a side project of mine.
Keeping growing the mind.
Yep. I'm reading a lot more, which is really, you know, it's been really helpful, you know, just investing, coaching, all that stuff. So I'm trying to apply that to jiu-jitsu and just in my overall life as well.
That's amazing. Any good reading tips while we're on that topic?
I've got a bunch. Right now I'm reading, I forgot the name. How am I forget the name?
You'll have to text it to me. I'm
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, dude. So interestingly enough, like I didn't read that until, I don't know, a year ago, something like that. Tristan turned me on to it, Tristan Gazelle. And I wish I read that when I was 20.
Yep.
And in fact, I finished the book and I went and bought 2 copies, one for both my kids. you know, because like I just didn't ever have that mindset.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
and
It's funny. You never learned any of that when like
dude,
through school or anything.
Like,
It's
why
like,
did I go to college for?
why'd you not show me this like 20 years ago?
I know. Or at least know that is, you know, like a different mindset.
Yep.
Even, you know, and it wasn't for a lack of being around that type of stuff. You know, it was just that like, you know, you get stuck in your reality and what you understand, and then, you know, all of a sudden, you know, somebody kind of breaks that open.
Yep.
And you're like, dude, that's possible. Oh man, you know, you know, yeah, that's definitely a good read. So really appreciate you sharing all that stuff, Tom. And how do we leave people? I mean, we went all over the place today. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean,
told you I had a squirrel brain.
No, dude, that's the fun thing about it is that like with jiu-jitsu, there's so much commonality, but the reality is everybody's got a unique journey. You got no different than in your career. I mean, like you don't ever, even people that work in like a similar industry, like financial services, aviation, whatever, I mean, people come up differently, you know, and there's something to learn from that journey from everybody. And that's part of the fun. So this was a blast. Hold me to the open mat thing. That's so the open mat concept, right? Like I've got a few folks already lined up, but I think if you and I kind of chronicled maybe a little bit of the Vegas journey, that'd be a blast. Yeah. You know, that'd be a blast. But anything else you wanted to cover on while we got everybody, or do you want to close out in a certain way?
No, I think we're good. I think just one thing is like I said, I've been reading stuff and I've just learned about, you know, don't be afraid to fail. Like
good advice.
It's
really good advice.
It's part of your growth. You know, I was reading about investing. It's like you're not going to pick the best stock on the first one. You're going to get like 20 different stocks. 10 of them may be crap, but the other 10 may change your life. Yeah. And it's kind of the same thing with jiu-jitsu. You that pass may not work, but the, you know, shifting your leg to the left might work. Yeah, right. You know, so it could open up a world for you that you wouldn't have known otherwise had you not like figured out that you suck at that particular pass. Right. Exactly. Right. Or it might open up a new entry. Like, I think at the time I was really bad at passing half guard. Then I just happened to see something about going from half guard or a knee cut pass to a saddle. I was like, oh my God. Why didn't someone show me that? Yeah, right. Exactly. And I hit it at Pan Am's too. I couldn't pass his half guard, or I got a knee cut pass. I got stuck, back step pass into a knee bar. And I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. It's so true, man. It's like, and that is top tier advice right there in terms of like, don't be afraid to fail. A lot of people say it, man, but it's a lot harder to live it. You're preaching. Like I was talking with my wife a while ago. I was like, as a kid, you're like, you don't want to fail, you know, you don't want to fail your tests. You don't want to fail your grades. You don't want to fail, you know, X, Y, Z. And it's like, it's all about a standard. Yeah, it's exactly. Really arbitrary as you grow up. That's what my kid was like. She got, it was like a C or something like that. I was like, don't worry about it. Just figure out what you did wrong and do better for the next time. That's all. There's no reason to harp on it. I'm just happy you tried. You did your best. 100%. And no different than like, you know, we talked about like, you know, right? Mm-hmm. Did you try? You know, like, yeah, man, it's freaking hard. I don't know this stuff. Okay, cool. Like, who cares what your grade was? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, believe me, if you were to open up my high school GPA, you might not be too impressed, you know, and, but, C's get degrees. C's get degrees, 100%, man. And at the end of the day, honestly, nobody really cares, dude. Like the grit and everything that comes out of some of those environments of having a knife fight your way through it is far more valuable than some freaking A you get to put on your refrigerator when you're a kid, you know, and stuff. So that's really good advice, man. Well, I appreciate you being on, dude. And like you were super professional about it. I mean, like people can't see it, but I mean, I've literally got like a freaking 10-page document in front of me that Tom helped me put together as we prepped. And you can tell I've been working in a corporate setting for a while. I'm like, oh, dude, he took my PDF. He deconstructed it. He's like, oh my God, here we go. I just specifically said, don't do that. It's way too much work, but it makes for a lot better prep. And we'd been trying to schedule it for a long time. So I'm glad we were able to knock it out and get through it and for sticking with me, man. And so for everybody else that's out there, just going back to the very beginning, people want to know how to support the podcast. The Mat Mission is the way to support the podcast. And there's going to be more and more that's going to come on that and how you could directly support it with your time, on ways that you can support it with resources that you've got available to us. And I'm telling you, the amount of satisfaction that comes from helping others do the things that you love to do is a major part of your development as a jiu-jitsu person and also as a human being. And so with that,
Thank you, everybody, for making it this far, and we are out.